Chapter 1244. Xiao Chen left behind the silent Baize spiritual beast and walked closer to the broken pieces. He lowered his head to take a look and realized that his flying sword had been shattered by the lightning. It had already broken into a few pieces and had fallen to the ground. There was no spiritual energy left, and only a few pieces of metal were left. It looked like it could no longer be reforged. Xiao Chen sighed as he picked up the fragments of the flying sword with a pained expression. He could not help but feel enraged. He turned around and glared coldly at Baize. This young master spent a lot of effort to obtain this flying sword. I didn't expect it to be destroyed just like that, because of your strange curiosity. What? You're blaming me for this? Baize was stunned for a moment and immediately complained. You were the one who wanted to chase after me. Don't you know that it's easy to get struck by lightning when you're at a high place? I don't care about that, Xiao Chen said fiercely. Unless you can compensate me with something of equal value, don't even think about leaving this place alive. Baize snorted and hesitated for a while. It looked like it was in a difficult position. What do you want me to compensate you with? I only have 4 spiritual beasts. If I don't have anything else, you're making things difficult for spiritual beasts. Oh, is that so? Xiao Chen stroked his chin as he walked back. He circled around the Baize spirit beast twice and sized it up with great interest. What do you want? Baize felt uncomfortable under Xiao Chen's gaze. It stomped its feet a few times. Don't have any improper thoughts about me. I have 4 male spiritual beasts. Pfft, you're quite imaginative. Xiao Chen almost spat out. He raised his eyebrows and said, I see that your legs are quite agile. You can run like a wisp of smoke, and you don't even pant when you climb the stairs. I might as well let you replace the flying sword and be my mount. Originally, Xiao Chen didn't want to use Baize as his mount. After all, it was a bit too big, and it couldn't be carried around like the flying sword. The most important thing was that it had such a terrifying appearance. If he were to run around the streets with it, it would be too shocking. If he were to accidentally bump into a cowardly cultivator and scare them to death, it would be troublesome. But now that the flying sword had been struck by lightning, Xiao Chen couldn't make another one in a short period of time. This venerable realm was so big. If he ran by foot, even if Xiao Chen had reached the profound ascension stage, it would take him a long time to run. Not to mention, he would have to carry Cheng Minjing and the others who had just reached the venerable realm. After pondering for a while, Xiao Chen could only choose to temporarily use the Baize spiritual beast as a replacement. In any case, it was so big that many people could sit on its back. It should not be as cramped as the flying sword. What did you say? After all, I have 4 high-end spirit beasts that have cultivated for several hundred years. Why would they be mounts for a little brat like you? The Baize spirit beast almost jumped up as it asked in shock. Xiao Chen patted its head and smiled. Don't worry, I have money. I promise I won't mistreat you. I'll have enough fish and meat every day. You can make as much as you want. No, I'm a vegetarian. I'm not interested in fish and meat. Don't waste your time, I won't. Baize shook its head and refused. It didn't want to be ridden by a human. That would be too embarrassing. But before Baize could finish, Xiao Chen forced the electric ball in front of it again. He sneered. Very well, since you don't want to, there's no point in keeping you. You. What are you going to do? Baize tried its best to shrink its neck. It wanted to get as far away from the electric ball as possible. Your entire body is a treasure. After you die, I'll take your fur, your inner core and your... Xiao Chen paused on purpose. He then continued with a sinister smile. Hee, I'll sell the spiritual beast whip. The money I earn from selling it should be enough for me to make another flying sword. The Baize beast was so frightened that it began to stutter. Especially when it heard that Xiao Chen wanted to sell its whip for money. It even subconsciously clamped its hind legs together. The fur on its entire face was trembling, and it was obviously terrified. It had no idea what to do. Don't be like this and that. Have you thought it through? Actually, I still prefer the original flying sword. If it wasn't for the lightning that you attracted and smashed it into pieces, I wouldn't even bother to use a stupid spiritual beast like you as a mount. Xiao Chun pretended to be helpless as he spoke with melancholy. You! Bai Zai was so angry that its body trembled. Stupid and stupid? I'm a 7th level martial honor spiritual beast. How dare this guy use these 2 words to describe me? How despicable. Isn't that so? Look at you, I know you're useless. I bet you eat a lot too. Sooner or later, I'll be broke. Xiao Chun teased. He waved the thunderball technique in front of the Bai's beast again and asked impatiently, Stop wasting time. Have you made up your mind? If you can't, let me know and we'll start dissecting. Bai Zai's spirit beast really wanted to reject him with a backbone, but its strength was not as high as the fellow in front of it. If it rejected him, it would not be able to escape even if it wanted to. Not to mention that it would not be able to leave a complete corpse. Even that part of it would be sold. Bai Zai lowered its head and pondered for a moment. Then it nodded dejectedly and said, All right, I agree. However, we have to make a pact. I'm only responsible for being your mount. I won't do any dirty work. If one day you're crippled or disappear, I won't be your slave anymore. After all, high-level spiritual beasts like me will only follow the strong. No problem. However, I don't think such a day will come. Xiao Chun shrugged his shoulders and carelessly stroked the Bai's spiritual beast's fur as he said, Just follow me and work hard. Maybe one day, I'll be lucky and catch another beautiful female spiritual beast. When that time comes, I'll make her your wife. Pfft, who cares? How can a high-level spiritual beast like me find a trash spiritual beast as a partner? Bai Zai immediately snorted and protested. Haha, I've already agreed. Shouldn't you take that ball away? It's scary. Oh, I forgot. Xiao Chun snapped his fingers and kept the electric ball in front of Bai Zai. I think you did it on purpose. Bai Zai mumbled softly, then it asked, Where are we going next? By the way, what's your name? Oh, my name is Xiao Chun. You can call me Master. However, don't talk when there are outsiders around. You might scare them. Xiao Chun waved his hand. Chapter 1245. Looking at the withered forest that was shrouded in fog, Xiao Chun asked Bai Zai excitedly, You said that there's a paradise in front of us, and there are many treasures of heaven and earth, right? Where's the exact location? Hurry up and bring me there. Follow me. It's less than 200 meters ahead, and it'll be 4. Bai Zai ignored Xiao Chun's suggestion to call him master. It didn't even see this little brat as its master. Instead, it strode forward with its hooves. Xiao Chun didn't really care. After all, it didn't matter if he called him master or not. He really didn't care about that. As he watched Bai Zai walk forward, he took off his tattered jacket and sat on its back. Then he stretched his body and leisurely swung his legs. Bai Zai suddenly felt a weight on its back. It immediately understood what had happened. Although it was displeased, it could only endure it for the time being. It secretly planned to find an opportunity to show Xiao Chun who was the boss. After riding Bai Zai out of the withered forest, Xiao Chun's face suddenly revealed an extremely shocked expression. It wasn't because of the lightning tribulation or other dangers, but because the scene in front of him was too dreamy. It was so dreamy that Xiao Chun almost thought that he was in a dream. Countless treasures of heaven and earth were like weeds, growing luxuriantly on the surrounding land. There were all kinds of dazzling. Many medicinal herbs with conflicting natures grew together like good brothers. Some of the more precious herbs didn't even have a place to grow, and could only climb up the rocks on the side. Xiao Chun gulped and immediately jumped down. He quickly rolled up his jacket into the shape of a bag, and began to plunder the treasures of heaven and earth. There were some medicinal herbs that he couldn't name, but after being reminded by the elder heaven ancestor, Xiao Chun was able to recognize quite a few of them. After plundering for a while, Xiao Chun found a pattern, and simply picked the precious and rare ones. After filling his bag to the brim, he was still unwilling to give up, and continued to stuff the heavenly materials and earthly treasures into his bag. On the other hand, Bai Zai's behavior was a little strange. It looked nervous and kept looking left and right like a thief. From time to time, it would urge Xiao Chun to hurry up, as if it was very afraid of this place. Hey, what's wrong with you? You worked so hard to trick me to come here. But when we finally arrived, You didn't do anything and just stood there like a fool. What's the point of you coming here? Xiao Chun filled the bag to the brim, then straightened his back and glared at Bai Zhe as he spoke snappily. What the F***ck? Do you think I don't want treasures? Both of us have so much negative energy on us. What if we get struck by lightning? Is it wrong for me to be careful? Bai Zhe was not to be outdone, so it yelled at Xiao Chun at the top of its voice. I think you're really stupid. Xiao Chun was both angry and amused at the same time. He could not help but ask, since you know that this place is dangerous, why don't you take what you want and leave immediately? Are you going to stand here and wait to be struck by lightning? Xiao Chun was speechless towards the Bei's spiritual beast. There was no one else like this simple-minded yet powerful fellow. It was probably because it had stayed in the venerable realm for too long that its brain wasn't working well, and its intelligence had been eaten away. Oh, you're right. The spirit beast Bai Zhe nodded as if it was deep in thought. All of a sudden, it took a step forward and quickly charged into the bushes that were filled with rare treasures. The bushes swayed for a moment, then a poochie-poochie sound was heard. At first, Xiao Chun looked at its figure in confusion. The more he looked, the more shocked he became. This fellow actually opened its bloody mouth and started to eat the bushes. Looking at how it was wolfing down the food, it seemed like it wanted to eat even the ground. Xiao Chun watched in a daze as Bei's devoured the entire patch of grass, not even sparing the weeds. His jaw nearly dropped in shock as he stood there, unable to say a single word. Burp. Bai Zhe let out a long breath. It licked its lips as if it had not had enough and said in satisfaction, Not bad, it's delicious. I didn't come here in vain. Xiao Chun looked at the barren wasteland and was puzzled. Could it be that this idiot went through so much trouble to come here, just to eat a big meal? Was there nothing else? Even if it was to find some rare herbs to increase its rank, it was not going to do anything like that? Why are you standing there like an idiot? You're just standing there in a daze. Let's leave this place quickly. I have a feeling that we're going to face another lightning tribulation soon. The Bei's spirit beast shook its head as it walked back. When it saw Xiao Chun's dumbfounded expression, it used its front hooves to gently kick his leg and urged him impatiently. Oh, Xiao Chun had yet to come back to his senses. He subconsciously jumped onto Bei's back and did not forget to tighten the bag around him. Let's go. Bai Zhe immediately took light steps and quickly escaped from this treasured land. You came here to eat those natural treasures? Xiao Chun asked in disbelief as he sat on the Bei's spirit beast's back. Of course. Why else do you think I came here? Do you really think I'm an idiot? Bai Zhe did not stop and nodded as if it was a matter of course. Boom. Just as Xiao Chun finished speaking, a deafening rumble came from not far behind him. Bai Zhe stopped in its tracks and turned around to look at where it was previously. It shook its body proudly and said, Look, it's a good thing we ran fast. Otherwise, we would have been struck by lightning. I'm so smart. Xiao Chun was almost petrified. This spiritual beast was simply an amusing fighter jet. It had risked its life and racked its brains to lure the humans here, just to eat those heavenly treasures. Xiao Chun secretly made up his mind. It seemed like he had to find an opportunity to teach it a lesson and enlighten it. Otherwise, it would be killed by its foolish behavior sooner or later. Bai Zhe moved very quickly. After the time it took for a joss stick to burn, it brought Xiao Chun back to the place where Xin Jingxian and the others had gone into seclusion. Xiao Chun jumped off the beast's back and searched around the seclusion area for a long time. However, he could not find any traces of the women. Song Qingshu and Hong Laosan's blood were still on the ground, proving that they had been there. However, other than that, there were no other clues. Xiao Chun stood in the seclusion area and looked around. Then, he sighed deeply with a melancholic expression. Sigh. It was not easy for him to meet Goddess Shen. In the end, he did not even have the time to chat with her. He did not even have the time to be tender and sweet. She had disappeared again. He guessed that she had followed Hong Zhu and the others back to the Hong family. After all, Song Qingshu and Hong Laosan's injuries were quite serious. If they were not treated in time, it was very likely that they would die. Chapter 1246. Although Xiao Chen didn't care about Song Qingshu and third young master Hong's lives, Hong Zhu and the others naturally wouldn't abandon them. Goddess Shun was so kind, she would definitely go back with them. Seeing how disappointed Xiao Chen was as he walked back, Bai Zai asked curiously, "Hey Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen, what's your relationship with those girls? Also, who were the two idiots who attacked the puppets? Could it be that you stole their wives, so they're here to seek revenge? They're so weak, they definitely won't be able to defeat you. Why are you asking so many useless questions? I say as a spirit beast, why are you so gossipy?" Xiao Chen rolled his eyes and retorted snappily, "Can I be curious? You four cultivators are really stingy." Bai Zai snorted through its nostrils. Xiao Chen looked back at the seclusion area that was empty. Since Goddess Shun and the others had already left, he should go back first. Once he left the venerable realm, he would go to the Hong family to look for them. "Let's go, we'll go to another place to pick them up." "All right, let's get some wild game to bring back." Xiao Chen rode on Bai's back and patted its neck as he gave an order. We still have to go somewhere else. My legs are about to break." Bai Zai moved its feet and grumbled unhappily. "Just leave when I tell you to. Why are you talking so much? Are you a chatterbox?" Xiao Chen patted its head again. The Bai's spirit beast snorted angrily and slowly walked forward. Xiao Chen frowned. Just as he was about to fly into a rage, he suddenly remembered something. This Bai's spirit beast had thick limbs and a sturdy body. It looked fierce and ferocious. Furthermore, its eyes were a deep green and flickered with a frightening light. It was obvious that it was not a good person. If he were to ride it and suddenly appear in front of Cheng Minjing, Jia Muzhen, and the others, he reckoned that they would be scared to death. After pondering for a moment, Xiao Chen decided to transform the appearance of the Bai's beast into a white horse. Apart from the fact that the white horse was slightly larger, there was nothing strange about it. Instead, it made Xiao Chen's red lips and white teeth look very handsome. What did you do to the doll?" Bai Zai suddenly felt its vision blur. It immediately sensed that Xiao Chen had done something to it, but it did not know the specifics, so it asked, "Oh, nothing much. I just made you look like a horse, so that you won't scare other people when you go out," Xiao Chen explained lightly. "*CK. I have 4 high-grade spiritual beasts, and you actually turned me into a horse? Who would want to see that stupid look? Hurry up and bring me back." Bai Zai was instantly enraged and shouted angrily. This Bai's beast seemed to be very concerned about its appearance. However, when it looked down, it realized that it still looked the same. It couldn't help but feel puzzled. Since only other people can see it, it doesn't matter if you don't like it. Hurry up and go. I'm in a hurry. Xiao Chen couldn't be bothered with its protest. He squeezed the horse's belly and signaled it to move forward. All right. After taking 2 steps, Xiao Chen spoke again. In the future, you won't be a Bai's beast in front of other people. Since you're a horse now, I'll call you Grass Mud Horse for convenience. No, absolutely not. The Bai's spirit beast almost jumped, and it roared furiously. I'll tolerate it if you make me look like a horse. But the name Sijia. Actually, it's not too bad. As Bai Zai roared, its aura weakened. This was because it suddenly saw a sizzling electric ball hanging in front of its eyes. The terrifying memory of being electrocuted immediately surged into its mind, causing it to be unable to resist at all. Feeling helpless, Bai Zai could only curse a few times. It forcefully suppressed the anger in its heart and galloped in the direction that Xiao Chen had pointed. While it was running, the Bai's spirit beast even played a few tricks. It purposely chose to travel through the dense forest at a fast speed, and from time to time, it would perform a few difficult moves, such as sliding and drifting to the side, and making sudden stops and turns, all so that it could shake Xiao Chen off its back. Bai Zai felt that even if it couldn't kill Xiao Chen, it would at least cripple him. It was even willing to watch him fall on his face. However, it was disappointed in the end. No matter how it twisted and ran, Xiao Chen was like a statue that was fixed on its back. He did not move an inch, and was not affected at all. Instead, it was Bai Zai who almost crashed into a tree due to its lack of control over its direction. Feeling helpless, Bai Zai could only temporarily give up on its mischief. Since this trick was useless, it could only wait for a suitable opportunity to take revenge in the future. For now, it would just have to endure it. Sister Menjing, why hasn't Xiao Chen's husband returned after such a long time? Could something have happened to him? Tian Souring asked dejectedly, as she stared at the endless fog outside the seclusion area. A child's words carry no harm. Cheng Menjing glared at Tian Souring and scolded. What are you talking about? Xiao Chen is so powerful. Of course he wouldn't have met with an accident. He just ran a little further away, and didn't make it in time. Sigh, Sister Souring is about to starve to death. Tian Souring pouted and rubbed her stomach pitifully. I hope that Xiao Chen's husband will bring back some wild game, and treat my stomach well. Eat, eat, eat. You only know how to eat. Cheng Menjing was truly angered to death by Tian Souring. She couldn't help but stretch out her hand to pinch Tian Souring's chubby cheeks. Panting with rage, she lectured. It's not like you don't know how dangerous the Venerable One's secret realm is. Perhaps Xiao Chen is in trouble? Can't you just bear with it? Ouch! That hurts, Sister Menjing, let go of me. Sister Souring knows she's wrong. After struggling to break free from Cheng Menjing's clutches, Tian Souring covered her face and sat on the side, feeling wronged. She muttered, And you said that I'm a child's words carry no harm. You're talking nonsense too. Xiao Chen's husband is a mutant. He can handle any kind of trouble. Cheng Menjing looked at Tian Souring's innocent face and sighed softly. Truth be told, young Miss Cheng was also very worried about Xiao Chen's safety. Earlier, everyone had finished consolidating their cultivation bases. Originally, they thought that they could relax a little. Unexpectedly, they encountered some cultivators who wanted to snatch their seclusion location. Although everyone had broken through to the Honored One's realm, their strength was still suppressed to the full-phase monarch realm. Moreover, they were outnumbered. Therefore, they could only choose to hide in the seclusion area and activate their defensive measures. They could only rely on the seclusion area's defensive measures to defend themselves. Chapter 1247. Seeing that there was no hope of snatching the treasure, the cultivators could only guard the area for a while before leaving resentfully. However, just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief and thought that the danger was over, a few ferocious beasts appeared out of nowhere and glared at the people in the seclusion area. One of the ferocious beasts even stretched out its claws and scratched at the barrier of the seclusion area in an attempt to destroy the protective measures. Fortunately, the barrier was sturdy enough that it did not succeed. However, it still gave Cheng Menjing and the rest a good scare. Seeing that the ferocious beasts tried a few times and finally returned to the forest in vain, the group persisted for a while longer before they stopped circulating their mental cultivation techniques and relaxed a little. However, while the others could relax a little, Cheng Menjing did not dare to let down her guard. She was the only cultivator in the group, so she naturally took on the responsibility of releasing her divine sense to observe the movements in the surroundings so that she could warn the group at any time. Previously, when the cultivators and the ferocious beasts attacked, it was because of Cheng Menjing's warning that they could activate the protective measures in time to protect the group. Don't be too anxious, Xiao Chen should be back soon. I think he might have lost his way. After all, the Venerable One's secret realm is very large. Coupled with the thick fog, it's normal for him to be unable to find his way back. Jia Muzhen smiled and eased the atmosphere. Just as Cheng Menjing was about to speak, her divine sense suddenly detected a movement not far away. She immediately waved her hand and signaled, "Everyone be careful. There's movement in the forest on the left. Quickly circulate your mental cultivation techniques and activate the protective measures." The group was already used to Cheng Menjing giving orders and trusted her early warning. Naturally, they did not dare to be negligent and sat down cross-legged. Not long after, they entered a state of cultivation. Dong! Just as everyone closed their eyes and concentrated on circulating their mental cultivation techniques, a crisp knocking sound suddenly came from the barrier of the seclusion area. Cheng Minjing was so frightened that she trembled. She did not dare to relax, and continued to circulate her mental cultivation method. Then, she opened her eyes slightly and looked over. Outside the retreat, Xiao Chun was smiling and riding on a big white horse. He was holding a few hairs in his left hand, and a few stones in his right hand. He was throwing them one by one at the retreat. However, every stone was bounced off by the protective measures, and fell to the ground with a thud. Xiao Chun. Cheng Minjing stood up in surprise and joy. Her worried heart was finally at ease. She couldn't help but complain. Why did you throw stones at us? Can't you just say something? You almost scared me to death. The others also heard Cheng Minjing shout, and immediately opened their eyes. When they saw Xiao Chun standing in front of them with a smile, they all stood up happily. Seeing that the defensive measures of the retreat had been lifted, Cheng Minjing walked in front of Xiao Chun and said with a sullen face, Really? He just hunted a few hares. How could he be gone for so long? Did he really get lost? Or did he go into the hare's nest? Where did he get this big white horse? It's a long story. Xiao Chun jumped off the horse's back and rubbed Cheng Minjing's head. Then he smiled and looked around at the crowd that was surging over. He pressed his hands together and said, I know you guys are starving. Let's take care of these rabbits first. Let's talk while we roast them. After that we can eat them. After asking everyone to pick up some wood around, Xiao Chun quickly made a fire. Then, he put the cooked hares on it and roasted them. Everyone sat around the fire and listened to Xiao Chun's brief description of the previous encounter. Ah, you met Jingxian? Shouldn't she be cultivating in the martial arts world? How could she appear here? Cheng Minjing asked in astonishment as she flipped through the rabbit meat on the rack. She and Xin Jingxian had been best friends for many years. After not seeing each other for a year, she often thought about her. Now that she suddenly heard news of her, she was naturally very concerned. I'm not too sure about the specific reason, but I know that she came here to break through to the venerable realm. After that, she should be going to participate in a sacrificial ceremony in the cultivation world or something. Xiao Chun shook his head and explained what he already knew. As for the purpose of Shen Jingxian and Hongzhu's group, Xiao Chun was still confused. He only faintly felt that the Hong and Song families were not as simple as they seemed. In particular, Hongzhu's vague mention of the sacrificial ceremony in the cultivation world made him feel even more uneasy. Usually, the so-called sacrificial rites would require one to bring things to offer as a sacrifice, and one would definitely have to pay a huge price. Especially this kind of sacrificial rites that involved living people. It was even more ominous, and the result was very likely to be death. The more Xiao Chun thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. He secretly regretted it. If he had known earlier, he would have left with Xin Jingxian at that time. He could not have left her alone there and gone back with Hongzhu and the others. Xiao Chun, I feel that there is something wrong with the sacrificial ceremony you mentioned. Cheng Minjing took a bite of the rabbit meat. After thinking for a while, she frowned and said, How about this? We will leave here now and return to the inner martial arts world. While we are at it, we will inquire about the location of the Hong and Song families. Then, we will find them and bring Jingxian back to the Jia family. I don't want her to encounter any danger. Yes, that's what I plan to do. Xiao Chun nodded. Once everyone has filled their stomachs, we will pack up as soon as possible and prepare to leave. Since everyone had already broken through to the martial honor realm, there was no point in staying in the honor realm. Xiao Chun did not want to make an irreversible mistake because of a moment of hesitation. Husband Xiao Chun, is this big white horse really the base spiritual beast that you mentioned? Tian Souring's mouth was full of grease, and there was even a roasted rabbit leg in his mouth. He stood up and curiously circled the base spiritual beast twice, carefully sizing it up. The base spiritual beast was originally a little unhappy. Earlier, Xiao Chun had introduced it too little and did not highlight its true abilities. Now that someone was interested in it, it immediately straightened its body and wanted Tian Souring to see how powerful it was. Sister Soury, I think. Tian Soury took 2 steps back and curled his lips. It seems a little silly, It doesn't have the might and dominance of a spirit beast at all. Nay, nay. Bai Zai's hair stood on end. It wanted to roar a few times to scare Tian Sour, but it didn't expect that its roar would sound like that of an ordinary colt. It wasn't threatening at all. It could even understand human language? What's wrong? You're not happy just because I said a few words? Tian Soren wolfed down the rabbit leg and threw the bones on the ground. Then, he wiped his oily hands on the white marsh beast's body. This time, the Bai Zai spirit beast collapsed even more. It was so angry that it jumped back and forth a few times, calling out continuously. Although it was able to get rid of the oil stains by shaking its fur, Tian Soren's actions were too humiliating. Oh no, that's too insulting to spirit beasts. Chapter 1248. Tian Suruan and Bai Zai stared at each other for a long time. Tian Suruan wiped her mouth and said, "Husband Xiao Chen, why don't we roast this spirit beast and eat it? Sister Suruan has never tasted a spirit beast in her life." "Alright Suruan, don't compete with that stupid spirit beast." Xiao Chen shook his head. Seeing that everyone was almost done eating and cleaning up, he walked over and carried Tian Suruan onto the horse's back. Then he sent Cheng Minjing and the other girls up as well. After the girls sat down, Xiao Chen called out to Jiao Muzhen and the Jiao Renzhong. "You guys come up too. My flying sword was smashed by the lightning, so I can only use this stupid guy as a means of transportation. You guys just have to make do." Huff huff huff. Bai Zai was so angry that it almost rolled its eyes. However, in front of Xiao Chen, it didn't dare to flare up. It could only exhale a few hot breaths from its nostrils to express its dissatisfaction. However, Xiao Chen directly ignored its silent protest. He jumped onto the horse's back first and sat behind the girls. Then, he picked up Jiao Muzhen and the Jiao Renzhong and arranged them behind him. Then, he ordered Bai Zai to gallop toward the inner martial world's teleportation array. After leaving the gloomy jungle and returning to the main road, Xiao Chen found that there were a lot less cultivators shuttling back and forth. He reckoned that those people had already found a seclusion spot and were working hard to break through to the venerable realm. Xiao Chen was not interested in the others. He continued walking along the main road. However, it did not take him long to see two seclusion sites lined up side by side. A group of cultivators had gathered around the two sites. Among them, there were a few figures that Xiao Chen felt were quite familiar. However, due to the interference of the fog, he couldn't see who they were for a while. Xiao Chen released his divine sense to investigate, and found that the leaders were two acquaintances, Tang Qianling and Tang Qianqi, as well as the disciples of Awakening Heaven sect who had besieged him before. At this time, they were discussing how to allocate these two seclusion sites, so as to make the most reasonable use of resources. Looking at Tang Qianling and the others who occupied more than half of the road, Xiao Chen couldn't help but frown and yell, "The fools in front, hurry up and scram. This young master has urgent matters to attend to. Those of you who don't scram, watch out for your dog lives." After shouting, Xiao Chen squeezed the horse's abdomen and sped up. Anyway, he had already warned them. If they didn't get out of the way, they would die. What the hell? You actually dare to clamor in front of young Master Tang. I think you're tired of living. When Tang Qianqi heard the roar, he turned his head and saw a white object rushing out of the fog. He gathered his qi and was about to curse, but just as he was cursing, he felt something hit his chest heavily. Under this hit, Tang Qianqi was unable to resist. His whole body flew out with a whoosh and fell heavily not far away. He lay on the ground for a long time and could not get up. The corner of his mouth was still bubbling with blood. I warned you to get out of the way, but you still stood there like a fool. You've damaged my horse. Can you afford to pay for it? Xiao Chen jumped off the back of Bai Zai and sneered at Tang Qianqi, who was not far away. After catching the rest of the people on the ground, Xiao Chen brought them to Tang Qianling and the others. He pretended to be surprised and said, "Aya, isn't this little Tang? What are you all doing here? Is there money on the ground?" As Bai Zai had just sent a person flying, it was in a good mood. Most of its originally sullen emotions had been vented. It followed behind Xiao Chun and shook its head proudly. Xiao Chun, why are you here? F***ck. What kind of stupid horse is this? Why is it so big? When Tang Qianling saw that Tang Qianqi had been sent flying, he wanted to get angry. However, when he saw that the person who came was Xiao Chun, he immediately lost his temper. When he turned his head and saw the big white horse that Bai Zhe had transformed into, Tang Qianling lost his composure and shouted in surprise. The Bai's spiritual beast rolled its eyes at Tang Qianling. Another ignorant fellow. F***ck your mother horse. Xiao Chun patted Bai Zhe's head and said calmly. You. Why are you scolding me the moment you come up? Tang Qianling frowned. A strange thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Could it be that the name of this stupid horse is called F***ck your mother horse? F***ck, Xiao Chun really has a bad taste. I don't want to waste my breath on a retard like you, Xiao Chun said, then glanced behind Tang Qianling. He didn't see any trace of elder son, except for Jia Tuyao, who was lying on the stretcher. Xiao Chun asked in surprise. Where did that idiot surnamed son go? You ask me, but who should I ask? Where did elder son go? How would I know? Tang Qianling impatiently waved his hand. He ordered his men to check on Tang Qianqi's injury, then looked at Xiao Chun with vigilance and said, Xiao Chun, if you don't have anything else to say, don't disturb our breakthrough. Why not? I have something else to say. Xiao Chun didn't let Tang Qianling go so easily. He continued to ask, do you know where the Hong family and the Song family of the internal martial arts world are? Tang Qianqi, who was lying on the ground, suddenly moved. The Hong family? The family that Hong Zhu was from? He knew it. Although their family was small, in order to win the heart of a beauty, he had specially inquired about it. He didn't expect that Xiao Chun actually wanted to know more about the Hong family. Could it be that he was interested in Hong Zhu? Wishful thinking. I won't tell you what I know. Hong Zhu is definitely in my bag. What Hong family and Song family? Never heard of them. Tang Qianling shook his head and said disdainfully, I have never cared about that kind of tattered small family. Are you done asking? If you're done asking. Before Tang Qianling could finish, a young disciple who was the leader of the Qi Tian sect suddenly noticed something and suddenly jumped out. He pointed at Xing Gongzi, who was behind Xiao Chun, and shouted, Xing Gongzi, you have already broken through to the venerable realm. Why are you still with Xiao Chun and the rest? This person was Elder Chen's last disciple. He only knew how to concentrate on training and never asked about the matters of the sect. He didn't know that Elder Sun had deliberately left Xing Gongzi by Xiao Chen's side to monitor Xiao Chen's every move. Therefore, when he saw that she was mixed in with Xiao Chen's group, he was so indignant. Xing Gongzi was shocked. Where did this rash youth come from? Now that the people from Qi Tian sect and Xiao Chen's group were present, and there were also people from the Tang family watching from the side, how was she going to explain? There were others in Qi Tian sect who knew about the situation. They pulled that disciple and whispered, Elder Sun knows about this matter. Chapter 1249. Know what? The young disciple sneered and rolled his eyes at the person who tried to persuade him. He arrogantly lectured, Elder Sun is muddled. But are you all muddled as well? Xing Gongzi has already harmed Xiao Chun many times. How is he still safe and sound? I don't care if you believe it or not. But I don't believe it. You idiot. Why are you blindly spouting nonsense when you don't understand? Xiao Chun glared at the young disciple and said matter-of-factly, I like Xing Gongzi and am currently pursuing her. Furthermore, I am magnanimous and have already forgiven her. When Xing Gongzi heard this, her face turned red, and she quietly lowered her head. Her heart was beating wildly. Was this a confession from Xiao Chun? Furthermore, he did it in front of so many people. It was so embarrassing. Should she agree to him? No way, no way. Perhaps Xiao Chun only wanted to fool the people from Awakening Heaven sect, and purposely said this. He seemed to have done this in the past as well. This person had a glib tongue, and his words were not reliable. It was better to observe him for a while more before deciding. You're talking nonsense. The young disciple was not to be outdone and retorted sarcastically, "You have so many women behind you. How do you still have the time to pursue others? This reason is too lousy." "What? Money can't buy my willingness." Xiao Chen sneered and condensed an electric ball in his hand. He stared at the young disciple and said, "But you brat, you actually dare to bare your fangs and jump up and down like a monkey in front of this young master. Are you asking for a beating? Could it be that being struck by lightning just now wasn't satisfying enough, and you want to try it again?" Seeing a bright blue electric ball suddenly appear in Xiao Chen's hand, the young disciple was so frightened that his face turned pale, and he took a few steps back. Although he relied on his status as an outstanding disciple of the sect, and dared to reprimand Xing Gongzi without any misgivings, he had no way to deal with Xiao Chun, who spoke with his fists. He really didn't expect that Xiao Chun would be so biased towards her. For a moment, he was shocked and afraid, and didn't know what to say to counterattack. "How boring. You've been intimidated so easily." Xiao Chun curled his lips, and withdrew his electric ball art in disdain. He then called for everyone to jump back onto the Bay's spirit beast's back. With Xiao Chen's current cultivation, he couldn't be bothered to waste time with this group of people. The most important thing right now was to find Shen Jingxian and the others. Sitting on the Bay's spiritual beast's back, Xiao Chen looked down at Tang Qianling's group and calmly said, "I still have important matters to attend to, so I don't have the time to waste with you scum. Go on with your gay affairs." Following that, the Bay's spirit beast spat out a breath of hot air, and raised its front hooves. Then, it quickly disappeared into the fog with Xiao Chun and the others. "Humph! Why aren't you going out now that you've advanced? The venerable realm is filled with danger. When you encounter it, you'll have no one to help you even if you cry for help. You deserve to die." Tang Qianling heaved a sigh of relief and glared hatefully at Xiao Chen's back. Turning around to check on Tang Qianqi's injuries, Tang Qianling found that he was only slightly shaken, and was not a big deal. Thus, he didn't take it to heart, and continued to command the others to enter the seclusion point, and prepare to break through. After Xiao Chun and the others ran forward for a distance, they confirmed that Tang Qianling and the others could no longer see them. Only then did they change direction, and flew towards the teleportation portal. Xiao Chun naturally wanted to go out. However, after he met Tang Qianling and the others, he suddenly had an idea. Therefore, he didn't want them to see him walking out so openly. Xiao Chun intended to take this opportunity to inquire about the Hong family and the Song family, while also looking for the mysterious place that Jia Muzin mentioned outside the secret realm. Jia Muzin said before that he accidentally learned that Qi Tianmen sent the workers of the Tianyu mine to a mysterious place. It was possible that Xiao Chen's father, Cheng Minjing's uncle, and Tang Tang's parents were all sent there. Although it was only a speculation, Xiao Chen always had a vague feeling that his father's disappearance seemed to have an inexplicable relationship with Qi Tianmen. If he could find the mysterious place, he might really be able to find out the whereabouts of his father. In addition, after Jia Muzin became the young master, he gradually had contact with the family affairs. He also vaguely knew some of the situation of Qi Tianmen's biohuman experiments. However, Jia Yudo had always been mainly responsible for the family's cooperation with the outside world. After Jia Yubian lost his life, Qi Tianmen handed over this matter to him. Therefore, only Jia Yudo knew the specific content. However, this second uncle had always adopted a strict and defensive strategy when dealing with Jia Muzin. Therefore, Jia Muzin had no way to obtain detailed information. He only knew that Qi Tianmen had united the three major families to develop biohumans. He was not clear about other details. Jia Muzin had always trusted Xiao Chen. He also told him about this matter in full detail. Although Xiao Chen didn't say it, he had a strong worry in his heart. Was there any connection between the mysterious place and this biohuman experiment? Could my father have also been transformed into a biohuman and sent to that mysterious place? On the way to the secret realm, Xiao Chen had discussed this matter with Cheng Minjing and Tang Tang. Both of them also felt that this was very likely. Therefore, they were more and more worried about their loved ones. Now that there was this opportunity, Xiaochen planned to take advantage of the main forces of several sects and families swarming into the Venerable's secret realm to investigate this situation. After quietly leaving the Venerable's secret realm, Xiaochen and his group stayed near the pier. They went back and forth to ask many people, but unfortunately, they couldn't get the specific address of the Hong family and the Song family. After all, in the martial arts world, there were many small and medium-sized families like this. However, these two families were usually very low-key and did not have any business dealings with other families. Therefore, even fewer people knew about them. However, in the process of asking for information, Xiaochen and his group received another piece of information. Not far from the west of the Secret Realms pier, there seemed to be a similar transmission portal. However, after asking around, Xiaochen realized that although many people mentioned this situation, basically none of them had actually seen the transmission portal. Most of them were just spreading rumors, and the more they spread, the more unbelievable it became. In the end, no one knew where the transmission portal led to. Although many practitioners knew about this rumor, they still looked skeptical. Since the process of entering the Venerable's secret realm was so mature, and everyone knew the details, and they could go with their fellow disciples, it was much safer. Who would be willing to take the risk of going to another unknown transmission portal? Chapter 1250. Seeing that they really couldn't get anything out of them, Xiaochen, Jia Muzin, and the others discussed for a while. Instead of continuing to wander around like headless flies and trying their luck to ask about the whereabouts of the Hong family and Song family, it was better to explore the teleportation formation. Who knows, they might find more valuable information. After everyone finished their discussion, Xiaochen rode on bays and led the group to the west. After leaving the pier, the people along the way gradually became sparse. There were very few pedestrians, and it was completely different from the bustling scene at the pier. The further west they went, the more remote it became. Other than a few wandering beasts and abandoned buildings by the side of the road, there was nothing else. It was unknown whether it was because the scenery was too desolate or because the area was relatively large, but when the cultivators said that it wasn't far to the west, Xiaochen and the rest felt that it was rather far. Even the extremely fast Baizé spirit beast had to run for a long time before it could reach its destination. Just as everyone was about to arrive, Xiaochen's divine sense suddenly sensed that there was a group of low-level cultivators guarding the road in front of them. Looking at their clothes, they should be people from Awakening Heaven sect. Xiaochen didn't want to get entangled with them too much, nor was he willing to beat the grass and scare the snake. Thus, he simply used a camouflage technique and directly whizzed past the group of cultivators. The cultivators guarding the road only felt a gust of wind blow past them, causing them to sway. However, after standing up straight and looking again, they didn't find any traces of anything, so they didn't think much of it. Xiaochen let Bays slow down a little. After walking for about half an hour, the outline of a teleportation formation finally faintly appeared in front of them. After gradually getting closer, everyone realized that the teleportation formation was constantly shining with a faint white light. It seemed that someone had activated the formation at the scene, causing it to be in operation. However, they didn't know what they were doing. Xiaochen quickly looked. There's a group of people there. They seem to be biohumans. Little Miss Xing was sitting at the very front of the spirit beasts, so she could see that there were many people standing in front of the teleportation array. They were all slowly walking towards the array, as those people basically had dull eyes and sluggish movements. Miss Xing was very familiar with this type of people. Therefore, she immediately determined that these people should be the biohumans created by Awakening Heavenly Gate. Xiaochen nodded slightly. His heart ached as he stared at the rigid biohumans. He urged the wizard spiritual beast to speed up and charge forward. Recalling that she used to be manipulated like this group of biohumans, Tang Tang also felt very uncomfortable. Tears kept swirling in her eyes. She wished she could grow a pair of wings immediately, fly over directly and save all of them. Xiaochen, That biohuman's back seems to be my uncle Cheng Zhongqian. Cheng Minjing, who had been staring in front, suddenly became nervous. She pulled Xiao Chun with one hand and pointed at the back of a biohuman in khaki clothes with the other. She said anxiously, Let's hurry up and save him. If that array is activated, it'll be too late." Xiao Chun nodded. He estimated that the distance should be about right. He exerted force on his feet and immediately jumped up from the back of the wizard spiritual beast. As he rushed forward, he shouted, "All of you stop." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Chun had already condensed 2 thunderballs in his hands. He smashed them fiercely at the teleportation formation not far away, trying to destroy it directly, and thus stop awakening Heavenly Gate's evil deeds. Boom! Boom! The 2 thunderballs approached the teleportation formation at an extremely fast speed. Then they exploded above it, making a deafening explosion. However, the shock wave of the explosion was completely blocked by the protective measures of the formation. The moment the thunderballs exploded, the teleportation formation glowed with a white light. The biohumans who were already standing inside instantly disappeared. It was obvious that they had been teleported to another place. Xiao Chun was the closest to the formation. At the moment when the white light flashed, he seemed to see a familiar figure standing in the middle of the formation. It seemed to be his father. Xiao Chun's heart was in his throat. He did not have time to think about anything. He immediately flew over as fast as he could, wanting to enter the teleportation formation with his father and follow him to see what was going on. However, before he could reach the teleportation formation, a few people suddenly flashed out of the remaining biohumans. They exuded an extremely majestic aura and forcibly blocked Xiao Chun's way. Standing at the front of those people was Sitsuchi. As soon as he rushed out, he pointed at Xiao Chun and scolded, "Brat, stop right there. This is the territory of the Awakening Heaven sect. No one is allowed to enter. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Sitsuchi had originally wanted to directly attack and kill Xiao Chun. However, he considered that there was still a group of biohumans that had not been teleported in. If he could not kill Xiao Chun immediately, this brat would find an opportunity to cause trouble and destroy the teleportation formation. That would not be worth it. After weighing the pros and cons, Sitsuchi could only first protect the formation and the biohumans behind him. He stared at Xiao Chun's every move with a vigilant look. At this time, Jia Yudo also stood out. He immediately saw Jia Muzin and Jia Runzhong, who had just arrived. He was instantly enraged. He stomped his feet and scolded, "Jia Muzin, you little bastard, hurry up and take Xiao Chun away. Don't stay here and cause trouble. This is a big matter. It's not a game you guys are playing. Jia Yudo, who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? I'm the current young master of the Jia family. Since the Jia family is involved in this matter, I naturally have the right to know the relevant situation." Jia Muzin naturally did not want to be outdone. He strode to Xiao Chun's side and stood side by side with him. He did not have the slightest intention of retreating. "Haha, Jia Yudo, can you do it? You're just a brat who is still wet behind the ears. Do you really think that you're invincible just because you've become the young master?" An old man in white also walked over, revealing the strength of a venerable perfection. He stared coldly at Jia Muzin and said, "Brat, I advise you to take your lovers behind you and get out of here quickly. Now that the people in charge of the 3 major families of the internal martial arts world are here, I'm afraid you don't have the qualifications to stop this matter." Another old man in red also had the strength of a venerable perfection. He appeared in front of everyone along with the old man in white and said sinisterly, "This old man in red was the old master of the Yu family, and the old man in white in front of him was the old master of the Tang family. They usually cultivated in seclusion and rarely appeared in front of the world. This time, they had specially come to escort the biohumans into the world of cultivators to explore. Originally, they thought that it would be smooth sailing. They never expected that a few hotheads would appear halfway through. Chapter 1251. However, the 2 elders of the Tang family and the Yu family did not take Xiao Chun and his group seriously. In their eyes, although these brats were emitting the aura of venerable ones, they were still very young. It was obvious that they had just broken through in the venerable secret realm. Compared to these elders, they were not even worth mentioning. You old fools dare to block this young master's path? It seems like you're tired of living. Xiao Chun watched as the group of biohumans disappeared. The anger in his heart surged. He did not care who these people in front of him were, because he did not care about them at all. Little brat, do you think we'll be scared by a few words? You're too naive. Clan leader Yu looked at Xiao Chun indifferently with his hands behind his back. He said coldly, seeing that you're still young and don't know the strength of me and these people, I'll let you go this time. As long as you kneel down and kowtow 3 times and apologize to us, I'll consider forgiving you. Hee, I'm not done yet. Xiao Chun coldly snorted as a cold and disdainful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said word by word, since you think that your lives are too long, then this young master doesn't mind sending you off today. This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. What arrogance! Xiao Chun, I'd like to see what kind of ability you have to make all of us stay here. When Situ Qitian saw that the remaining biohumans were already standing in the middle of the formation, he immediately focused his attention on Xiao Chun and roared fiercely. As soon as he finished speaking, Situ Qitian's aura surged. He activated his heart technique and flew up. He used all of his strength and slammed his palm heavily on Xiao Chun's head, intending to kill him in one move. Xiao Chun crossed his arms and did not move. He smiled as he looked at Situ Qitian, who was getting closer and closer. He did not even take a step back. He did not even have the slightest intention of dodging or defending. Situ Qitian's face revealed a look of surprise. Seeing that his palm wind was about to hit Xiao Chun, why didn't this brat dodge? Could it be that he was unable to move due to the force of the wind from his palm? Or was it because he was too shocked and only knew how to stand there and not move? On the other side, the 2 old men from the Tang family and Yu family were also a little surprised. They looked at each other and thought at the same time, this brat really can't do it. He had probably been scared silly by sect leader Situ. Earlier, he had solemnly vowed to keep everyone here. But now, he was so oppressed by the other party's aura that he was rooted to the spot. It seemed that he was just an embroidered pillow with a false appearance. However, Jia Yudo, who was standing behind Situ Qitian, an elder son, who was standing on the side, had different opinions. They had seen Xiao Chun's method several times and knew that he must have come prepared. He must have a backup plan waiting. However, Jia Yudo and elder son were also puzzled. Sect leader Situ had already used 10% of his power. No matter how cunning Xiao Chun was, he shouldn't be able to avoid it, right? What was his backup plan? Slap! A crisp sound was heard. Everyone immediately put away their thoughts and looked up. At the same time, they were dumbfounded. They thought that they would see the scene of Xiao Chun vomiting blood and being sent flying. However, they didn't expect that there was indeed a person flying in the sky. But that person was Situ Qitian. When he looked down again, he saw Xiao Chun standing in the same spot as if nothing had happened. His outstretched palm slowly fell down as he watched the defenseless Situ Qitian fly further and further away in the air with a smile that was not a smile. I remember that the Kuei Shan faction of the outer martial arts world should be your Qitian sect's lackey, right? Xiao Chun smiled coldly and ridiculed him expressionlessly. The father and son of the Kuei Shan faction are both good actors. One can act like a flying dragonfly, and the other can fly like a zigzag. It seems that from today onwards, Situ Qitian, you will also have a famous nickname. I think you should be called Situ Fei, or Qitian Fei. It sounds very cool. Situ Qitian was flying far away in the sky, so naturally he couldn't answer. Elder son was so angry that his face turned red. But he didn't dare to do anything to Xiao Chun. He could only lower his head and pretend that he didn't hear anything. Xiao Chun looked at Situ Qitian, who finally began to fall, and frowned slightly. He felt that something was wrong, because the place where Situ Qitian fell happened to be in the middle of the teleportation array. The protective measures of the array, that originally resisted the Thunderball technique, didn't seem to detect any threat from Situ Qitian. So it didn't activate in time. and let him fall straight down. When Xiaochen felt that something was wrong, he wanted to rush up and give another palm strike to change Sita position. But it was too late. He had just taken a step forward, and he watched as Sita fell heavily into the array. Boom! Due to the huge impact of Sita falling from the sky, a hole was directly smashed in the middle of the teleportation array, and a burst of smoke rose up. Then, a white light flashed, and Sita, who was unknown whether he was alive or dead, and the remaining few overturned biohumans, disappeared in an instant from the teleportation array. It seemed that they were all sent to the other end of the array to be companions together. When the teleportation ended and everyone disappeared, the entire array seemed to be affected by the big hole that Sita had smashed, and it suddenly collapsed. A crackling sound was heard, and the white light in the array gradually dimmed and slowly disappeared, leaving only a pile of broken bricks and tiles. Obviously, this teleportation array had been completely destroyed and had lost its function. Everyone was shocked by this scene. When the last dim white light disappeared, Elder Sun, Jiayudo, and the old masters of the other two big families finally reacted. They couldn't help but look at each other. This was a big problem. The open heaven gate had been explored in the martial arts world for so long, and this was the only teleportation array that could lead to the cultivation world. Moreover, this array was left behind from ancient times. Now that it had collapsed, no one knew how to repair it. In this way, Sita was very likely to be like the people who had explored before, never to return again. Xiaochen also had a headache. He was too unlucky. How could it be so coincidental that the teleportation array was destroyed? Now, even if he wanted to enter the array to explore, he couldn't do it. With nowhere to vent his anger, Xiaochen looked at the few people in front of him with a gloomy face and said coldly, "You guys, don't just stand there. Anyway, I've already killed one, so I don't mind killing a few more of you. Whoever wants to accompany that idiot Sita on the road to the netherworld, feel free to come and try. I promise to satisfy your needs." Chapter 1252. The few people who were originally full of arrogance were now speechless. The faces of the Tang family head and the Yu family head alternated between red and white. Their expressions were extremely embarrassed. Now, they had already realized that Xiaochen was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. His strength was much higher than theirs. Sita, as a venerable perfection, couldn't even last one move against Xiaochen. Who would dare to openly go against him? Elder Sun stared at the collapsed formation silently. His emotions were very complicated. Sita was his sect master. Now that he was thrown into the teleportation formation, he couldn't come back. Chi Tian's sect was like a group of dragons without a leader. What was he going to do? As for Jiayudo, he was trembling with fear. He was so scared that his legs were about to turn into jelly. He did not dare to voice any objections. Instead, he carefully took a few steps back and quietly hid himself behind Elder Sun and the others. "All right, since none of you have any objections, then I'll say my opinion." Seeing that the other party had their heads lowered in silence, Xiaochen knew that his move earlier had stunned them. Hence, he took 2 steps forward and stared at Elder Sun as he said, "Son, that fellow Sita just said that he's going to pass the position of sect master to Xing Gongzi. Did you hear that?" "What the hell? I didn't." Elder Sun came back to his senses. When he heard what Xiaochen said, he was a little stunned. He didn't know what he was planning. Just as he was about to shake his head to deny it, he saw Xiaochen slowly raise his hand. He was so scared that he trembled and quickly nodded. Yes. Sect Master Sita did say that." Before Xiaochen could make another move, Elder Sun immediately bowed to Miss Xing behind him. This subordinate greets Sect Master Xing. Although he was extremely unwilling, Elder Sun still respectfully bowed to little Lady Xing. There was no other way. Xiaochen's cultivation was too high. Now that he was watching from the side, he didn't have any confidence in winning. It was better to be honest and not go against him. Looking at Elder Sun's sudden change from arrogance to deference, little Miss Xing was at a loss of what to do. She subconsciously glanced at Xiao Chun, not understanding why he suddenly wanted her to be the sect leader. However, it was not appropriate for her to directly ask, so she could only vaguely agree. Very well. Since the Awakening Heaven sect and the Jia family are now my people, we'll count it as 2 against 2 now. Xiao Chun could not be bothered to talk nonsense with them, and directly asked about their purpose. Tell me, what the hell are you doing here? What was on the other side of the portal? Why did you send so many biohumans there? This elder son hesitated for a moment, glancing at the Tang and Yu family heads. Their gazes were drifting about, pretending not to see the look in elder son's eyes. Jia Yudo was even more exaggerated. His entire body was hidden behind the crowd, completely invisible. What? Do you also want to try flying? Xiao Chun said coldly when he saw elder son's expression. No, cough cough, I was just organizing my words. That great hero Xiao, it's like this. Elder son was really at his wit's end, so he could only pretend to cough twice and explain in detail. On the other side of this portal is a place called the World of Cultivators. World of Cultivators. Is that true? You old B*****, are you trying to trick me? Xiao Chun's eyes suddenly narrowed as he stared at elder son suspiciously. World of Cultivators? This was the second time in a few short days that he had heard of this term. Could it be that the World of Cultivators that elder son was talking about was the same place that Hongzhu mentioned? However, what was the matter with the so-called World of Cultivators? Since there was already a portal here, why did Hongzhu and the others still want to perform the World of Cultivators? If it was a World of Cultivators, then what were the sacrifices? Could it be Shen Jingxian and the others? Xiao Chen's alarm bells went off in his head. If Jingxian was participating in the World of Cultivators sacrifice, then it would be dangerous. Would the World of Cultivators sacrifice threaten her life? Could it be that she specially went to the Venerable Realm to make a breakthrough, just for this matter? Elder son naturally didn't know the thoughts that flashed through Xiao Chen's mind. He continued to honestly say, "It's true, great hero Xiao. However, the World of Cultivators is especially dangerous because our disciples from the Awakening Heaven sect had explored it before, but none of them returned. Therefore, we chose to first experiment on the biohumans." Experiment on the biohumans? They can only accept orders and can't speak. How can they experiment? Cheng Menjing was worried about her uncle and immediately asked anxiously. After asking, Cheng Menjing looked at Tang Tang apologetically. After all, she didn't mean to mention her sad past. Tang Tang slightly shook her head and revealed a comforting smile, indicating that she didn't mind. The biohumans have cameras on them, so they can record the scene after entering the magic formation at any time. Elder Sun glanced at the sullen Xiao Chun and explained obediently. The second generation of biohumans developed by the Awakening Heaven sect can be controlled from a distance, so we don't have to enter the World of Cultivators ourselves. We only need to command them to explore the way outside the magic formation. Now that the magic formation has been destroyed, how can I know whether what you said is true or not? Xiao Chun was worried about Shen Jingxian, and his tone carried a hint of killing intent. What if you randomly make up a story and fabricate a World of Cultivators? Xiao Chun elder son didn't lie. Seeing that the situation was a little stiff, family head Tang quickly added, "This magic formation can indeed lead to the World of Cultivators. Someone has been there before and came back successfully. After he came back, his strength was greatly improved, and he could even kill a venerable in the peak at will. He is just as powerful as you." Family head Yu nodded in agreement, but he was a little puzzled. This Xiao Chun killed Sidichitian with one move. Isn't he from the World of Cultivators? If he really didn't come from the World of Cultivators, where did such a powerful junior come from? Oh, someone else had been there. Who was that person? Didn't you just say that no one came back? Xiao Chun glanced coldly at family head Tang and asked rhetorically. Well, family head Tang and family head Yu both showed a trace of fear. Obviously, they were a little afraid of this person's name. They turned to look at elder son, who was standing next to them, indicating that they wanted him to continue. Ahem. Elder son coughed twice unnaturally and glared at his two stupid teammates with resentment. They really couldn't do anything right, but were good at spoiling things. Originally, he only wanted to mention the world of cultivators, but now he had spilled everything. Chapter 1253. Is your throat not feeling well? Do you want me to treat it for you? Xiao Chen's voice sounded like a demon to Elder Sunday. He quickly shook his head. Seeing that he could no longer hide it, he could only say, "That person is the supreme sect leader of our Awakening Heaven sect. He was also the great devil of the inner martial arts world." Turning his head to look at the destroyed teleportation formation, Elder Sun's voice was a little hoarse. The supreme sect leader went to the world of cultivation through this teleportation formation and came back not long after. Moreover, his strength rose rapidly, and he successfully broke through the limits of the Venerable Realm Peak. He was in the limelight in the inner martial arts world for a while, so everyone was looking forward to going to the world of cultivation to take a look. That's it? That's it? Xiao Chen asked again patiently. That's it. Elder Sun looked at the angry Xiao Chen and replied with a stutter. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Then I don't understand. Xiao Chen suddenly exploded and shouted fiercely at Elder Sun. You took my father away. I'll take it that you took him away at random. Then I'll admit it. But since I was driven out of my family, your Awakening Heaven sect has been going against me time and time again. What the hell are you trying to do? Actually, we didn't do anything. Oh no, there's a reason for this. Elder Sun did not expect Xiao Chen to suddenly become angry. He was so scared that he trembled. He first shook his head, but after thinking about it he nodded. It looked very funny. What reason? What the hell does your supreme sect leader have to do with me? Could it be that he has some special perverted plot? Or do you think I'm easy to bully, so you specifically picked me to deal with? Xiao Chen stared at Elder Sun angrily and asked repeatedly. This. Elder Sun looked a little embarrassed. He hesitated for a long time, but could not say anything. Elder Sun, hurry up and say it. Everyone is still waiting here. Don't waste time. Old Master Tang could not help but say. In fact, his subtext was that everyone's lives were in the hands of this death god, Xiao Chen. If you want to die, don't drag others down with you. Hero Xiao, if I tell you the reason, don't be too angry. Elder Sun struggled in his heart for a while and asked tentatively. Hurry up and speak. Don't talk nonsense. What a waste of time. Xiao Chen waved his hand impatiently. Elder Sun sorted out his thoughts and said slowly. Actually, your mother is the eldest daughter of a family in the inner martial arts world. She once went to the Demon Star sect to train. Our Awakening Heaven sect's supreme sect master, Situ Haotian, accidentally saw her and fell in love with her immediately. He has always treated her as his crush. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. His mother. Could it be that his mother, who had been missing since he was a child, was also related to Awakening Heaven Gate? At that time, Yi Xiaoya was so close to him. Could it be that she was also related to his mother? Elder Sun carefully looked at Xiao Chen. When he saw that he did not interrupt, he let out a sigh of relief and said, In the end, I did not expect that your mother and that little Xiao Feng would be together with your father. Our supreme sect master was very angry and in a rage. He captured your mother. Oh, that means that your wretched sect master not only captured my mother, but also harmed my father. Then he deliberately came back to deal with me? That's quite a good plan. He wants to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. He wants to make our Xiao family extinct, right? Xiao Chen clenched his fists and gritted his teeth as he said each word. Such a ruthless sect with such malicious intentions. If it were not for the fact that Elder Sun still had some value, he would have killed him with a punch. Lady Xing, who was standing beside Xiao Chen, also had a face full of anger. She had never expected that Elder Sun would want her to deal with Xiao Chen for this reason. Isn't this going too far? Jia Muzin, Cheng Menjing, and the other ladies were also extremely angry. Tian Soran was already rubbing her palms together, waiting for Xiao Chen's husband to say the word. Then she would immediately rush forward and beat up that Elder Sunday. She would treat it as helping her husband vent his anger. Seeing that the group of people in front of him were filled with anger and murderous intent, elder son's legs became a little weak. He hurriedly explained, "No, that's not it. We actually did not want to kill you. Besides, I have also sent young Master Xing to save you several times. How could this be considered extinct? Great hero Xiao, you are thinking too much. We definitely did not have such intentions." "Is that so?" Xiao Chen sneered and immediately found the loophole in elder son's words. "This is even more contradictory. Don't think that I have forgotten that previously in Songning City in the secular world, Chao Yuliang and Cheng Mingxiang really tried their best to kill me." When the two old masters of the Tang and Yu clan heard Xiao Chen's words, their eyes instantly became rounder than copper bells. They felt that it was extremely unbelievable. What? This guy was actually from the secular world. How could a lowly and barren place like the secular world cultivate an expert who was even more powerful than a venerable full circle? Was he dreaming? This. Elder son's face turned pale, and cold sweat dripped down. He mumbled and didn't know what to say. His whole body was trembling like a fallen leaf in the autumn wind. Also, that father and son Ma Juzi and Ma Longting from the Kui Mountain sect. They were also ordered by you guys, right? You're determined to kill me. Xiao Chun paced back and forth and asked again. In the end, at that time, you sent little Miss Xing to save me. I say, what's wrong with your Awakening Heaven sect? Did Sichuchitian's head get pierced? Or did that supreme sect leader go crazy? Why did he do this kind of nonsense? Every time he recalled this experience, Xiao Chun felt that it was thrilling and lucky. In the past in Songning City, he was not only expelled from his clan, but also tormented by Chao Yuliang and Cheng Mengxiang, to the point of almost falling off a cliff. If it wasn't for his good luck in meeting his savior, the Elder Heaven Ancestor, he would have probably rotted into a pile of bones at the bottom of the cliff. Later on, when he returned to school, he experienced a few more murders. If it wasn't for the fact that he already had a little bit of strength at that time, in addition to the support of Missy, Bei Bei and Goddess Shen, he might have died in one of the traps. When he went to the outer Wulin, he would be chased by Ma Liwei from heaven to earth. He would have to hide like a stray dog. Even when he went to the morning market to set up a breakfast stall, he would have to be monitored by Miss Xing. It was simply too tragic. Along the way, Xiao Chun felt that it was a miracle that he was still alive. Fortunately, he had the Elder Heaven Ancestor to guide him in all aspects, the trust and help of a few female confidants, and the help of those loyal and righteous brothers. Otherwise, his current fate would probably be worse than Sichuchitian's. Chapter 1254. Actually, Hero Xiao, this is what happened. Elder Sun knew that if he didn't explain everything today, he wouldn't be able to get through this. He could only smile bitterly and say, in the beginning, Awakening Heaven sect did want to get rid of you, but this has nothing to do with me. It was an order from our sect's supreme elder. I was only responsible for passing it down and letting the people below carry it out. Don't take it to heart. Wait, what did you say? Supreme Elder? Xiao Chun waved his hand to stop Elder Sun's words. He asked in surprise. In your Awakening Heaven sect, other than that Hao Tian who is the supreme sect master, there is another supreme elder? Was he the one who wanted to kill me? Xiao Chun, who was originally filled with anger, felt a little baffled. The relationship of this Awakening Heaven sect was really messy. What was going on? Yes. Elder Sun nodded obediently and explained. Our Awakening Heaven sect has two supreme sect masters and supreme elders. The sect master's strength is relatively high, while the elders are responsible for some of the complicated affairs in the sect. According to what you said, Sichuchitian isn't considered a leader in your sect? He's just an errand boy. Xiao Chun looked at the ruins of the spell formation. He didn't expect that this incomparably arrogant Sichuchitian was just a small fry. Elder Sun sighed softly and shook his head. Back then, the Supreme Sect Master left not long after returning from the immortal cultivation world. Before leaving, he passed the position of the Sect Master to Sichuchitian and set the rule that the sect's disciples can no longer enter the immortal cultivation world through the spell formation. Little girl Xing nodded slightly. She also knew about this rule. It was just that the sect's disciples can't go to the mysterious place through the spell formation. At that time, she didn't understand what it was. When she asked others, they didn't say anything, so she didn't take it to heart. After the Supreme Sect Master left, the Supreme Elder, who has always been responsible for our sect's internal affairs, secretly controlled the power of Awakening Heaven's sect through Situ Qitian. Elder Sun lowered his head and said softly, Supreme Sect Master had always thought that Qitian Sect Master was his man. I didn't expect that Qitian Sect Master had already sided with Supreme Elder. Xiaochen rolled his eyes quietly. He did not expect that Awakening Sect, the leader of the internal world of martial artists, and a giant of the evil cult, would have such complicated factions. It seemed that the Grand Elder didn't have any good intentions. However, what was the current strength of that fellow? Most importantly, Elder Sun then pointed at the formation and continued, Grand Elder has always been very interested in going to the cultivation world, and wanted to restart this plan. After all, everyone wants to have more power. However, sect leader Grand Elder strictly forbade this. The sect rules cannot be easily changed, so this matter was put on hold. Wait a minute, I'm even more confused about this. Xiaochen couldn't help but ask directly, what does it have to do with me whether he can go to the cultivation world or not? Why do you keep coming here to plot against me? Does he also have a grudge against me? Or is he the same as that sect leader Haotian, especially infatuated with my mother? One snatched her away, and the other wanted to make a move against me? He has no grudge against you, but he does have some relationship with your mother. Elder Sun swallowed hard and then explained, it is because of this matter of going to the cultivation world that he specially came to kill to find you. Xiaochen raised his eyebrows and simply didn't ask anymore. He waited for Elder Sun to continue. Because after sect leader Grand Elder wandered, he disappeared for many years and didn't come back. Grand Elder thinks that sect leader Grand Elder might have died or gone to another plane and won't come back. So he wants to use you to see if he can lure sect leader Grand Elder out. If he can't be lured out, it proves that he has completely disappeared. Elder Sun spent a lot of effort to finish explaining. He was so tired that he was sweating profusely. The more I listen to you, the more confused I become. Xiaochen didn't buy it and continued to ask, how can you use me to lure that Situ Haotian out? I'm not even his biological son. At this point, a thought suddenly appeared in Xiaochen's mind. Could it be that my biological father isn't Xiaofeng, but that Situ Haotian and my mother gave birth to me? Isn't that a bit too melodramatic? No, absolutely impossible. You are not sect leader Grand Elder's son, but you are the son of the person he loves the most. Elder Sun was very smooth this time. Don't look at our sect leader Grand Elder, who has 3 wives and 4 concubines. The person he loves the most in his heart is still your mother. If you encounter any danger in the secular world, or the martial world, then your mother will certainly come to your rescue regardless of everything. Then of course sect leader Grand Elder, who follows her, will not just sit back and do nothing. He will certainly help. Hearing this, Xiaochen finally understood the ins and outs of the matter. If his mother had been watching him, if his life was in danger, she would appear to save him. Naturally, that sect leader Grand Elder Situ Haotian would also rush over and appear in front of the world. After thinking through this logic, Xiaochen couldn't help but curse in his heart. It seemed that this sect leader Grand Elder really had too many chores to handle. Why did he have to make such a simple matter so complicated and meticulous? Ordinary people really couldn't understand. It seemed that he was indeed made for a schemer. Elder Sun saw that after his tireless explanation, Xiaochen finally showed a look of realization. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off his forehead. This roundabout explanation was much more tiring than fighting 300 rounds with the enemy. What happened after that? Xiaochen thought through the key points in the front and began to ask about what happened after that. After Chao Yuliang and the others failed, even the Kuei Mountain sect fell. Why didn't you guys chase after me? Shouldn't you be chasing after me? It's very simple. Previously, when Chao Yuliang and the Kuei Mountain sect made a move, that was a matter between the secular world and the martial world. It had nothing to do with our Awakening Heaven sect. Elder Sun shrugged and replied, but if we made a move on you and the sect leader found out, wouldn't all our previous efforts be in vain? Wouldn't we be greatly implicated? So in order to monitor my every move, you purposely sent the ignorant Lady Xing to my side? Xiaochen asked coldly. Elder Sun nodded and said helplessly, we secretly arranged for you to be in danger, without Awakening Heaven sect's participation. We wanted to see if your mother and sect leader Grand Elder would appear and save you. If not, we would let young Master Xing, who was guarding by the side, save you and not let you die. Then we would create more danger. Chapter 1255. TSK, so that's how it is. You guys have really put in a lot of effort. I think you can act in an Infernal Affairs movie. Xiaochen raised his eyebrows and said sarcastically. Behind him, Jia Muzin, Cheng Menjing, and the other women also showed a look of contempt at the same time. Obviously, they did not have a good impression of the so-called Grand Supreme Elder. In order to lure out the Grand Supreme Sect leader, and Xiaochen's mother, he actually did such a despicable thing to Xiaochen, and had to pretend to be innocent. This person was really bad. Lady Xing also frowned slightly. She knew that she was sent to spy on Xiaochen to lure out a person, but she did not know that there was such a big game of chess behind the scenes. She also did not expect that she would indirectly become the Grand Supreme Elder's accomplice, and almost caused Xiaochen's death a few times. She could not help but feel a little guilty in her heart. We were also forced to. In the face of Xiaochen's sarcasm, Elder Sun did not dare to refute. He could only smile apologetically and said, don't be fooled by the fact that sect leader Qi Tian is usually very energetic and prestigious in the inner martial arts world. In fact, he is just a chess piece in the hands of the Grand Supreme Elder, and I am just an errand boy. Naturally, I would not dare to openly disobey the order. Then Sita Qitian's plan to restart the immortal cultivation world was also suggested by the Grand Supreme Elder, right? Is he not afraid of the Grand Supreme Sect leader coming back for revenge? Xiaochen ignored Elder Sun's humble flattery and asked indifferently, after so many tests on you, the Supreme Sect leader didn't show up again. So we speculated that he might have died or left the inner martial arts world. That's why the Supreme Sect leader made up his mind to restart the plan. Elder Sun spread his hands and answered in a very natural manner. In fact, Elder Sun was also very afraid that the Grand Supreme Sect leader would appear again. But after all, the Grand Supreme Elder was now the person in charge of Qi Tian sect, so he could only do as he was told. Xiaochen nodded in understanding. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked, by the way, what was the situation with the Devil Sect leader election in the outer martial arts world? At first, Ma Wuxia of the Kuei Mountain sect didn't agree to let me be the sect master of the Devil Sect. Why did he agree later? Thinking of the matter regarding the Demon Sect master, Xiaochen felt that it was a little strange. After he became the sect master, those people's attitudes seemed to have changed a few times. Could it be that the Supreme Elder of Awakening sect was playing tricks behind the scenes? That matter was naturally done to lure out the Supreme Sect Master. Elder Sun sighed and said, in addition to being the sect master of Qitian sect, Haotian is also the sect master of the dark sect in the inner martial arts world. He is extremely overbearing and tough. If he knows about this, he will definitely not allow the outer martial arts world to have another sect master of the dark sect. It seems that in order to lure out that Situ Haotian, aside from dealing with me, you also came up with a lot of tricks, Xiaochen said with a faint smile. At first, we didn't expect that you would be involved in this matter. Elder Sun glanced at Xiaochen and said helplessly, at that time, we thought that if that idiot Ma Wuxia became the sect master, the Supreme Sect Master might appear out of rage. But if you were the sect master, because of your mother's relationship, the Supreme Sect Master might very likely turn a blind eye to it. Xiaochen suddenly understood. No wonder Ma Wuxia was so unhappy when he became the sect master of the devil sect. At first, he thought that he only obstructed his path to becoming the sect master of the devil sect. He didn't expect that he had obstructed their plan. Thinking about how Ma Wuxia took the initiative to flatter him later, it was probably because he didn't want the supreme sect master to see that they had a dispute with him. Otherwise, if he was accidentally killed, they would be punished by the supreme sect master for revenge. Thinking back, when little Miss Xing first appeared, on the surface, she was always going against him. However, when Ma Baobao was blinded by revenge for his son's death and chased after him, she was protecting him in the dark. Thinking about it, other than being worried that he would really be killed, she was also afraid of accidentally offending the supreme sect leader. So she did this. After going back and forth for a long time, Xiaochen finally understood what was going on. It seemed that the tyrannical and selfish supreme sect master had gone to the immortal cultivation world and became so arrogant. He didn't want others to also gain strength, so he gave the order not to restart the immortal cultivation world project. Unfortunately, the supreme sect master was not a person who knew his place. After the supreme sect master went out for a period of time, he secretly set up a battle array and secretly used Xiaochen as a chess piece to test the waters. At the same time, he also used other methods to lure Situ Haotian out. After trying many times, the Grand Supreme Elder found that no matter how he jumped, the Grand Supreme Sect leader never appeared. So he gradually let down his guard and made up his mind to restart the world of cultivation plan, so that he could also go in and show off. However, because he didn't have the experience of predecessors, the Supreme Sect Master was afraid that if he went in rashly, there would be unpredictable situations. Therefore, he arranged for disciples to explore the way first, but in the end, no one came back. Although he failed to explore the way, he was not willing to give up, so he created a cyborg experiment. He joined forces with the three big families to capture people everywhere, causing the whole martial arts world and the secular world to be in a state of panic and unrest. All of this was just to satisfy his selfish desires. The more Xiaochen thought about it, the angrier he got. He didn't expect that there would be a group of people above Sitichitian. This was 2F** King Bad *SS. He thought that as long as he got rid of Qitian men, the whole thing would end. In the end, he didn't expect that a clown like the Supreme Sect Master would appear. What's the strength of your Supreme Sect Master? He could subdue Sitichitian and control the entire Qitian men. So he should be more than a 10th level perfected martial venerable, right? Xiaochen suppressed his anger and asked calmly. He's really quite powerful. At the mention of the Supreme Sect Master, Elder Sun's expression became a little unnatural. He looked very afraid and said hesitantly, logically speaking, he should also be a perfected martial venerable expert. After all, this is the highest level in the martial arts world. If he wants to break through to a higher level, he must go to the immortal cultivation world to find an opportunity. But Elder Sun paused for a moment and turned back to look at the collapse formation. Then he turned back to look at Xiaochen fearfully and continued. However, our sect master Qi Tian couldn't even last one move against him. The reason why he stopped was because Elder Sun suddenly realized that apart from the Supreme Sect Master, there was another person who was equally terrifying. That was Xiaochen in front of him. Wasn't Sitichitian also sent flying by a slap from Xiaochen? Moreover, he couldn't even see how strong Xiaochen was. How powerful was he? Chapter 1256. Xiaochen didn't notice Elder Sun's pause. Instead, he frowned slightly and thought to himself, this Grand Supreme Elder does seem to have some ability. Could it be that he's also a cultivator? Is he on the same level as me? But if he's a cultivator, it's impossible for there to be no signs at all. Secretly shaking his head, Xiaochen gave up on the idea of letting little Lady Xing return to Qitian sect alone to investigate the situation. If he let little Lady Xing return alone, her strength was still shallow, and he didn't know if the other party already had any suspicions. so there would definitely be danger. Forget it. It's better to let her follow me. It's safer this way. I'll wait for that Grand Supreme Elder to take the initiative to find me. That's right. Where is your Grand Supreme Elder now? Xiaochen pondered for a moment and felt that it was better to understand more about the Grand Supreme Elder. Otherwise, he would be in the dark while he was in the light. This guy was so cunning. If the people around him were to be attacked again, it would be troublesome. I'm not too sure about this. Elder Sun shook his head and said helplessly, he rarely shows himself. I heard that he hides in seclusion in the sect all year round. Even I don't have the qualifications to come into contact with him. Oh, then who does he usually meet with? Xiaochen raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect this old thing to be so arrogant. He only communicates with Qi Tian sect leader. Then through Qi Tian sect leader, he conveys information to us and assigns tasks. Elder Sun explained obediently. Xiaochen had already guessed this answer. Hearing this, he continued to ask, if that's the case, then you should know where he is in seclusion, right? I'm really not too sure. Qi Tian sect leader has never told us. Elder Sun shook his head again. He himself had only heard of this Grand Supreme Elder. He didn't know anything else. You don't know this, and you don't know that. Are you even an elder of Qi Tian sect? You're just a bystander, right? Do you want me to help you loosen your muscles and improve your memory? Xiaochen saw that Elder Sun didn't know anything and fiercely bared his teeth at him. Hero Xiao, I really don't know. Elder Sun was so scared that his legs went soft, and he almost knelt down. He explained with a sobbing tone. Sect Master Qi Tian's deterrent power is already very great. That Grand Elder is much more powerful than Sect Master. Even if I have more curiosity and doubts in my heart, I don't dare to ask too much. If I accidentally annoy them, wouldn't I have to bear the consequences? Xiaochen glared at Elder Sun, but he didn't really hit him. After all, Xiaochen knew that this guy was telling the truth. He could only sigh inwardly, feeling a headache coming on. If he couldn't uncover the Great Elder, then little Miss Xing wouldn't be able to officially take over Awakening Heaven sect. If that happened, then it would definitely affect his next plan. There were 3 big aristocratic families, and 1 big demonic sect. Other than the Tang family and the Yu family, the Jia family had basically become Xiaochen's left and right arms. Awakening Heaven sect, with little Miss Xing, could barely be considered their own power. As for the Tang and Yu families, after the 2 old patriarchs saw the situation, they would naturally not do anything stupid. If they didn't, they would be beaten up a few times, and they would be well behaved. Now the only thing that Xiaochen was worried about was the Grand Elder of Awakening Heaven sect. This old fellow was simply a ticking time bomb. Moreover, he didn't know when he would suddenly explode. After hearing the ins and outs of Elder Sun's story, Xiaochen knew that sooner or later, he would have to make a trip to the immortal cultivation world to find his father. During this period of time, he absolutely couldn't allow the Grand Elder to act recklessly in the immortal cultivation world. If he went to the immortal cultivation world and had no time to spare, then this old thing would take the opportunity to do something unfavorable to the Jia family and little Miss Xing. If that happened, then he would really be at a loss. Ding dong ding dong. Just as Xiaochen was in a dilemma and felt that his hands were tied, a sound suddenly came from Elder Sun's body. Everyone present was stunned for a moment. Elder Sun was the first to react. He quickly took out a tablet and quickly tapped on the screen a few times. Xiaochen's thoughts were suddenly interrupted. He couldn't help but angrily stare at Elder Sun and said sinisterly, "The one with the surname Sun. I realize that you are quite broad-minded. At this time, you still have the mood to go online and date? You are really leisurely." Elder Sun was so frightened by Xiaochen's killing intent that he trembled violently. The tablet in his hand almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, his eyes and hands were sharp and he grabbed it in time. Hero Xiao, it's not what you think. Elder Sun smiled and explained, "This tablet is connected to the camera on the body of the cyborgs. I originally thought that the array had collapsed, and the camera could not be connected. I didn't expect that there would be a signal now. Therefore, I wanted to quickly see the movements of the cyborgs and observed the situation in the immortal cultivation world. Oh, this thing can still be used? Come, come, come. Let me see the situation inside. Xiaochen immediately walked over, took the tablet, and carefully stared at the image on the screen. Cheng Minjing and Tang Tang immediately walked over to see if they could find any key clues from the camera. On the other side, Old Master Tang and Old Master, you also wanted to see the situation in the immortal cultivation world. However, they were afraid of Xiaochen's power, so they hesitated for a few steps and did not have the courage to walk over. In order to smoothly capture the situation in the immortal cultivation world, Qi Tianmen had equipped all the cyborgs that entered the transmission array with professional cameras. At this time, the screen of the tablet had been separated into more than a dozen pictures by software. Just like the surveillance cameras in the building, each picture was showing a different image. As each camera was installed on the chest of the cyborgs, the angle of the recording could only show the scene in front of the cyborgs. There were no recording tools for the cyborgs themselves, so it was impossible to tell who was taking the video. Xiao Chun and Cheng Minjing also could not find the familiar figure in the video. What was even more ridiculous was that after Xiao Chun got the tablet, he only looked at it for a few seconds before all the images on the screen suddenly became more and more blurry. Not long after, the entire screen was filled with snowflakes. It looked like an old-fashioned television that couldn't receive any signal. Damn! What kind of stupid thing did you buy? Xiaochen clicked on the screen a few times in confusion, but still found that there was no response. How can this be a broken toy? This is the original Applejack. Elder Son was originally sticking his head out to take a look, but when he heard Xiaochen's words, he immediately retorted. After turning it over to take a look, Xiaochen found that there was really an Apple logo on the back of the tablet. Chapter 1257. Xiaochen could not help but furrow his brows as he asked, Mr. Sun, could this tablet of yours be a counterfeit? I haven't looked at it for a while. Why can't the image be displayed? No way. I bought this iPad from abroad, and I even have a formal receipt. How can our awakening sect lack this little money? Elder Sun was taken aback. At first, he didn't quite believe it. He thought that Xiaochen had done something to blackmail him. He quickly stretched his head to take a look, and found that there was really no image on the screen. Xiaochen was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He directly handed over the tablet, crossed his arms in front of his chest, stared at Elder Sun with anger, and said coldly, Don't look at it blindly. Hurry up and fix this thing, or I'll twist your head off and kick it like a ball. Elder Sun carefully held the tablet in his hand. He first pressed the refresh button a few times, and found that it didn't work, so he turned off the software. After a while, he turned it back on again. The result was still the same. There was no image on the screen, and it was still a vast expanse of snowflakes. At his wit's end, Elder Sun had to display the usual routine of the secular world's network management. He first turned off the tablet, then took out the wireless network card inside, carefully checked it, wiped the dust, then inserted it back in, and turned it back on. Looking at the tablet screen gradually brightening, Elder Sun silently prayed in his heart, hoping that there would be no more problems. After turning it on, Elder Sun immediately opened the software, but to his disappointment, the monitoring screen was still the same. He couldn't receive any signal at all, only a snowflake rain. You've been fiddling with it for a long time. Is it done? It can't be the same as before, right? Looking at Elder Sun clumsily fiddling for a while, Xiaochen, who was waiting at the side, was a little bored, so he impatiently urged. This, Xiao Daxia, I've studied it and don't think it's the tablet's problem. It's probably that the signal in the cultivation world is cut off and can't be transmitted back, which causes this phenomenon. Elder Sun concluded. Just now, Elder Sun used another software to open a web page and found that the network was very smooth. After switching back to the monitoring software, he tried to refresh the screen a few times, but there was still no screen. He had no choice but to give up. Hearing Elder Sun's words, Tang family head and Yu family head's expressions were a little disappointed. Who would have thought that the perfect plan that they had painstakingly prepared for so many years would be ruined just like that? Jia Yudo also hung his head dejectedly, as if his father had died. Originally, he wanted to take advantage of this plan to enter the world of cultivators and properly increase his strength. Then, he would replace Jia Jinyan and become the person in charge of the Jia clan. At that time, he would kick Jia Muzin away and replace him with his own son. In the end, he did not expect that after such a long time, the teleportation circle would be destroyed, and there would be no news of the biohumans. Not only did he gain nothing, but the spiritual jades used to teleport the biohumans were also wasted. Communication devices could not be contacted for the time being, and everyone was a little unwilling. However, the people from the three big families still had a glimmer of hope in their hearts. After all, no matter what, Sita Qitian had also entered the world of cultivators. Even if it was unknown whether he was dead or alive, they believed that he would not be directly destroyed by a slap from Shaoqin, right? As long as Sita Qitian could enter the world of cultivators, he would be considered an expert with the strength of a venerable paragon. After the injury from that slap from Shaoqin had healed, he might even be able to obtain some benefits in the world of cultivators. At that time, he might even be able to safely return to the internal martial arts world. Although Sita Qitian could no longer be teleported out after the teleportation circle here was destroyed, these people did not take this to heart. Since the world of cultivators was so powerful, he should be able to return through other means. If there was really no other way, then wouldn't it be fine to create another teleportation circle here? Although those people were hoping to get lucky, Shaoqin no longer had the patience to continue waiting. He felt that there was not much use just waiting here foolishly. Besides, he did not know what the hell the world of cultivators was. Although Shaoqin wanted to go in immediately to find his father's whereabouts, he had other things to do at the moment. He had to arrange everything properly. Shaoqin was not a person who cared about his head and ignored his tail. He could not abandon everyone and leave. At least now he knew that there was a supreme elder in Qi Tian sect. Now that he had understood the situation, Shaoqin did not intend to keep this old guy and let him play some tricks behind his back. Otherwise, if he did not care about it, it would definitely be bad in the future. Shaoqin looked at Xing Chik and began to assign tasks. Xing Gongzi, you follow me to Qi Tian sect and find that supreme elder. I want to meet this old bastard and see how powerful he is. Since the decision had been made, Shaoqin was too lazy to continue wasting time here. If these people were willing to wait, then let them be. Anyway, the teleportation circle had been completely destroyed. In a short period of time, he was not afraid of what they would do. Oh, okay. Xing Chik nodded obediently. Xing Chik originally had a grudge against Qi Tian sect for using her countless times. She wanted to ask for an explanation. When she heard that Shaoqin was willing to bring her along, she was a little excited and immediately agreed. Minjing, you and Jia Muzin will stay here first. Help me keep an eye on these old guys. If they dare to act blindly without thinking. Shaoqin touched his chin and glanced back and forth between Elder Sun and the Tang family patriarchs, as well as Jia Yudo, who was hiding in the back and pretending not to be there. Hero Shao, we will definitely not act blindly without thinking. We will wait here for Qi Tian sect leader to come out. We will not do anything else. Family patriarch Tang was a little flustered and quickly waved his hand. Tian Suruan, on the other hand, was eager to get into action. She waved her little fist and shouted, Husband Shaoqin, tell us. How are we going to deal with them? Do we beat them up or tie them up and hang them on a tree? Sister Suruan is the best at doing these things. Forget it. With your cultivation, you really can't do anything to them for a while. I'll be more straightforward and cripple these people's cultivation first, so that they won't think too much and cause trouble again. Shaoqin thought for a while, lifted his foot, and walked over to Elder Sun and the others with a smirk. Shao, Hero Shao, let's talk things out. Why do you always have to resort to violence? Elder Sun was almost scared to death. He had also suffered a lot in order to reach his current cultivation. When he heard that Xiao Chun was going to cripple him, he felt that the whole sky was going to collapse. Chapter 1258. Family Head Yu also lowered his voice and said, "That's right, great hero Xiao, don't worry. We promise we won't do anything. Besides, although we aren't the most influential people in the inner martial arts world, we are still famous people. We don't have any grudges against your friends. No matter what, we won't do anything to them and ruin our own reputations." Yes, Xiao Xiao. Great hero Xiao. We are only interested in the world of cultivators. We definitely won't make things difficult for your friends. Family Head Tang immediately nodded and added, after seeing Xiao Chun send Situ Chi Tian flying, they were very afraid of his strength. If Xiao Chun didn't cause trouble for them, they would already be thanking the heavens and earth. How would they dare to take the initiative to provoke Chung Minjing and the others? Wouldn't that be the same as eating a bear's heart and a leopard's gall? Hiding at the back, Jia Yudo's small face was deathly pale. He didn't even dare to let out a fart. He lowered his head and didn't make a sound. With his current strength, he couldn't even be considered as a bystander. If it weren't for the other two family heads insisting on staying, he would have already slipped away. Oh, alright then, I'll trust you this once. Only then did Xiao Chun stop in his tracks. He swept his cold gaze across the crowd and suddenly unleashed a boundless aura. He warned them word by word, "You'd better not act recklessly. Otherwise, I'll definitely remove Awakening Heaven Gate, Tang Clan, and you clan from the pugilistic world." Their backs were drenched in cold sweat, and their legs were trembling like sifting chaff. They nodded with great difficulty. Seeing that his warning was effective, Xiao Chun retracted his aura and turned around to say a few words to Chung Minjing and Jiao Muzin. He also reminded Jia Tuyao and the other girls to pay attention to their safety. Then, he took Xing Girl and mounted Bai Zhe, preparing to set off for Chi Tian sect. Bai Zhe took 2 steps forward, and before Elder Sun and the others could breathe a sigh of relief, Xiao Chun suddenly stopped. After thinking for a moment, he turned around and walked back to Elder Sun's side. Taking advantage of Elder Sun's moment of shock, Xiao Chun reached out and picked him up. Hanging him by the side of the spiritual beast, he calmly said, "Since you have nothing to do here, you might as well come with me. Let's go and be a witness for the new sect master of Awakening Heaven sect, Xing Gongzi." This is not appropriate. In fact, Hero Xiao only needs to go by yourself. Elder Sun was just about to refuse, but before he could finish his words, he felt his vision blur. A strong gust of wind blew past, and the surrounding flowers and trees instantly flew past him. At that moment, Elder Sun felt as if he was flying in the sky. He was so frightened that even his voice became distorted. His entire body stiffened as he stuck to the side of the base spiritual beast. He did not dare to move at all, afraid that he would accidentally fall and be smashed into meat paste. Under Xiao Chen's command, the base spiritual beast shuttled back and forth in the inner martial world at its fastest speed. Because it usually lived in the Venerable One's secret realm, the base spiritual beast was very curious about the outside world. It did not honestly hurry along its journey. Sometimes it would suddenly burrow into the forest for a stroll, and when it came out, it would still be chewing on some unknown herbs. Sometimes it would huff and puff as it climbed up a small hill, and then quickly rush down. It was having a great time. The base spiritual beast was playing happily, so Xiao Chun did not pay it too much attention. In any case, he was already used to this stupid spiritual beast's behavior. Instead, he heard Elder Sun's cries of surprise from time to time, which made him feel a little noisy. For hours passed, and the base spiritual beast gradually slowed down. Finally, it steadily stopped outside the open heaven gate. After estimating the time, Xiao Chun was shocked from the bottom of his heart. He did not think that using this fellow to replace the flying sword would actually save him a lot of time. Furthermore, this fellow was playing all over the place. It could be seen how fast it was running. However, the one who suffered the most was Elder Sunday. He had been hanging on the side of the spiritual beast the whole time, and his eyes, ears, nose, and throat were all filled with cold wind. At this moment, he only felt that his eyes were seeing stars, and even his hair was blowing backwards. His clothes were tattered, and his body was covered with bruises. It was obvious that he had been hit quite hard on the road. Xiao Chen swung his arm, and first threw elder son to the side of the road. Then he supported little girl Xing, and jumped off the horse's back. He rushed to elder son and ordered, "Quickly, go and call all the disciples of the open heaven gate. First come and see the new sect leader Xing Gongzi. Then, bring me to find the grand elder, and see where that old thing is hiding." Okay, I'll go and find them. Blarg. Elder son stood up in a daze, and swayed back and forth a few steps on the side of the road. Before he could find the open heaven gate, he suddenly felt his stomach turn upside down. His legs went soft, and he knelt on the side of the road and began to vomit. What a useless thing. I let you experience the speed of a high-level spiritual beast for free, but you still got carsick. No, you got carsick from the spiritual beast. You're still a venerable expert? You're simply trash. You really don't have a good life. Xiao Chen coldly ridiculed. Although this was the case, Xiao Chen could not do anything to Elder Sunday. He could only stand far away with little girl Xing, and wait for this fellow to finish vomiting. Little girl Xing covered her nose in disgust, and looked at Elder Sun with disdain. Then she took a step further away. It was obvious that she could not stand this disgusting smell, and wanted to find a place to breathe. Who is it? How dare you behave so atrociously in the open heaven gate? Are you tired of living? Elder Sun's vomiting quickly attracted the attention of a group of patrolling guards. The leader of the guards walked over with large strides, and a face full of vigilance. However, just as he finished asking, he felt that the person kneeling on the ground was a little familiar. After carefully looking at him, he realized that this person was wearing tattered clothes, and had a body full of scars. He looked like a beggar. Wasn't this Elder Sun from his own sect? Son, Elder Sun? What's wrong with you? What happened? Do you want me to find a doctor for you? The leader of the guards asked in shock. No, there's no need. Go and gather all the disciples. I have an important matter to announce to everyone. Blarg. Elder Sun waved his hand, and struggled to finish what he had to say. His stomach churned again, and with a wah sound he continued to vomit. Alright, I'll go now. The leader of the guards frowned slightly. Although he felt that it was a little inappropriate for Elder Sun to vomit outside the sect's gate, he was only an ordinary disciple, and did not dare to disobey the great elder's orders. He immediately turned around, and ran towards the gate, preparing to enter the open heaven gate to call for help. Chapter 1259. After a while, all the disciples and elders of Awakening Heaven sect had gathered at the square. Everyone was in groups and discussing in low voices. They were very confused about the current situation. After all, the sect had never gathered everyone together in the past. Could it be that something big had happened? Seeing that everyone in the sect had gathered, Elder Sun, who was squatting at the side, hurriedly circulated his demonic chi, and forcefully suppressed the restlessness in his stomach. He stood up and staggered to the front of everyone. He took a few deep breaths, and tried to calm his emotions. Xiao Chun and Xing Las naturally followed him. The former looked relaxed and carefree, but the latter looked a little nervous, and her heart was a little perturbed. After all, she was about to be promoted from an ordinary disciple to the sect leader of Awakening Heaven sect. She was still a little uncomfortable, and didn't know how to face the upcoming situation. Xiao Chen looked back at Xing Las and smiled. He rubbed her head, indicating that he was here, and there was no need to be afraid. Disciples of Awakening Heaven sect, listen up. Elder Sun took a deep breath and announced loudly, because sect leader Situ has entered the immortal cultivation world to train in seclusion, he may not return in a short period of time. Therefore, before entering the immortal cultivation world, he has already officially passed the position of sect leader to Xing Gongzi. From today onwards, Xing Gongzi will be in charge of all the affairs of Awakening Heaven sect. No way. Isn't sect leader Situ's decision a little too casual? How can the dignified position of Awakening Heaven Sect's sect leader be passed to an ordinary disciple like Xing Gongzi? That's right. Whether it is experience or strength, this old man far surpasses Xing Gongzi. If she is really going to be the sect leader, this old man will be the first to refuse. I also refuse. In the past, I have contributed so much to Awakening Heaven Sect. Why didn't the sect remember it and let this little lass be the sect leader? I want the sect to have a fair election. Start over. That's right. Who would be willing to work for a little lass who is still wet behind her ears? It's more like she is my wife. If she becomes the sect leader, I think Awakening Heaven Sect will be finished. You are almost a year older than her, and you still have the nerve to ask her to be your wife? Let me do it. Just as Elder Sun finished his announcement, the disciples and elders of the Awakening Heaven Sect all exploded in anger. One after another, they raised all kinds of objections. The entire square was a boiling cauldron of voices and resentment. Almost no one agreed to let little girl Xing become the sect master. There were even people who jumped out and directly challenged little Miss Xing. They wanted to have a one-on-one duel with her. Whoever won would become the next sect leader. Just as the disciples were about to start an internal strife, a few flashes of blue lightning suddenly lit up. Without giving anyone time to react, they immediately flew into the crowd of disciples and struck the loudest ones. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Several extremely miserable screams came from the crowd. Those who were struck by the lightning had no ability to resist and directly fell to the ground, twitching all over and foaming at the mouth. The other disciples who were temporarily safe and sound immediately retreated, afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire. In an instant, a few empty spaces appeared in the square. In the middle of the spaces were the disciples who were struck by the lightning. The remaining people watched helplessly as their screams turned into silence. Not long after, they were charred black by the lightning and curled up motionlessly. They could not be more dead. Is there anyone else who is unconvinced or wants to fight one-on-one? As your sect master Xing's personal bodyguard, I will accompany you to the end. Just as the disciples were stunned by the scene in front of them, a low and intimidating voice suddenly rang out. Everyone turned their heads in unison and saw Xiaochen holding 2 balls of lightning in his hands. He stared at them expressionlessly. Seeing that everyone's attention had been attracted, Xiaochen circulated his yuan qi and released a powerful pressure from his body, spreading it out towards the crowd in front of him. Before the Awakening Heaven Sect disciples could tell what strength Xiaochen had, they suddenly felt a strong sense of suffocation. It was as if a huge hand was gripping their necks, or their chests were heavily smashed by a boulder. They saw stars and could not breathe. Looking at the 2 crackling balls of lightning in Xiaochen's hands, and feeling the unparalleled pressure, some of the weaker disciples quickly could not hold on. Their faces turned pale, their legs went limp, and they directly collapsed to the ground. As for the other disciples who had already broken through to the martial venerable realm, they were also struggling. They clenched their fists tightly as they bitterly endured the pressure released by Xiaochen. They did not dare to slack off in the slightest, afraid that they would fall to the ground in embarrassment like the low-level disciples if they were not careful. All the disciples had a question in their hearts. Who was this guy? Although they could not see his strength, the pressure he released was even more powerful than their sect leader Situchitian. It was simply too heaven-defying. Just as the disciples were feeling anxious and trying to figure out what to do, Xiaochen looked around and felt that he had more or less established his might. He still had to pass the authority to Xing Biki, so he withdrew the lightning ball in his hand and the pressure that had spread out. The Awakening Heaven Sect disciples all heaved a sigh of relief. Those who were lying on the ground could finally get up, but they still did not dare to dust off their bodies. They could only stand there with their heads lowered. Now, who else has any objections? Anyone who wants to challenge me? Xiaochen waited for a while, and seeing that no one spoke, he said in a deep voice, "Since none of you have any objections, Then be a little more obedient for this young master. Listen carefully to sect leader Xing's instructions for the next mission. Whoever dares to be impudent and disrespectful to sect leader Xing will end up like these charred corpses on the ground. The entire plaza was silent. After hearing Xiaoqin's warning, not a single Awakening Heaven sect disciple dared to act recklessly. They all stood in place obediently and did not make a sound. No matter what, strength was the best right to speak. Moreover, the corpses on the ground were too ghastly. Just a glance at them would cause people to feel fear for no reason. Xiaoqin, thank you. Xing girl looked gratefully at Xiaoqin and said softly. Although little chick Xing had always felt that Xiaoqin had a glib tongue and wasn't a proper person, when she encountered trouble, he would be the first to step forward and block in front of her, blocking those messy matters. This made little chick Xing's impression of him immediately increase by a lot. Xiaoqin shook his head slightly, then raised his chin and pointed at the Awakening Heaven sect disciples in front of him, who did not even dare to breathe loudly. He indicated that Xing girl did not need to take it to heart, and that they should first deal with the people in front of them. Chapter 1260. Little girl Xing furrowed her brows and thought for a while. She didn't know what to say and softly asked for help. Xiaoqin, what should I do next? I've never been a sect leader before, so I don't have much experience. Furthermore, many of the people here are more experienced than I am. I don't know how to give them orders. Oh, it's very simple. Xiaoqin shrugged his shoulders and replied in a low voice. You just need to let them search the entire Qi Tian sect and see if there's a secret room suitable for closed-door cultivation. That way we can find that Grand Elder. Xiaoqin wasn't too interested in managing Qi Tian sect. His current goal was to support little girl Xing and let her successfully become the sect leader. This would remove the threat that Qi Tian sect posed to him and the people around him. Then he would get rid of that malignant Grand Elder. Am I right? Little girl Xing nodded her head and took a deep breath. She took 2 steps forward and swept her gaze across everyone present. She cleared her throat and pretended to be dignified as she loudly said, Everyone, there's no need to be too nervous. As long as you obediently listen to my orders, I will naturally not punish any of you. Now, I will pass on my first order to all of you. Little girl Xing's crisp voice reverberated throughout the plaza. Although the disciples who had their heads lowered felt that it was strange for her to call herself the sect leader, they didn't dare to say anything. There was still a demon glaring at them like a tiger watching its prey. Next, you will search the entire sect in detail. Look for any secret passageways or seclusion points. If you find anything suspicious, or if you discover any traces of strangers, report to me as soon as possible. Little Miss Xing waved her hand and gave the order to search the sect. After everyone heard this, they were slightly stunned. They looked at each other in dismay and didn't know where to start. Besides, wasn't this a little too strange? Why did the new sect leader want them to search for these strange things? Logically, shouldn't the sect leader know everything that happened in the sect like the back of his hand? Could it be that there was something fishy about this? After a short moment of silence, the group of disciples had already split up. Some of the more quick-witted ones had already loudly received their orders and obediently turned around to carry out Xing Zhao's orders. At this time, they already understood that Xing Gongzi would have the final say in Qi Tian Gate from now on. After all, she had such a powerful backer by her side. She could send people on their way at any time. What capital did they have to resist? If he followed through and found what Xing Gongzi needed, he might even have a chance to advance or obtain more cultivation resources. As for some of the more inflexible disciples, they were still standing in the square, hesitating. They didn't know whether they should obey or question. What's wrong with you guys? Why are you still in a daze? Are you waiting for sect leader Xing to give you a red packet? Xiaoqin glared at them and said coldly, Why are you still here? Hurry up and get to work. If you don't find what sect leader Xing needs before the sky turns dark, then wait for someone to collect your corpses. Yes. The disciples who were originally in a dilemma suddenly quivered. They thought of Xiao Chen's demonic methods and naturally didn't dare to be negligent. They were so scared that they scattered like birds and beasts, one after another, ran towards the various rooms in the sect. As Qi Tian Gate was the #1 sect of the inner martial world's demonic cultivators, not only did it occupy a vast area, it also had hundreds of houses. They were located in different places and were surrounded by green mountains and green water. It made people feel relaxed and happy, even though the environment was very beautiful. If one wanted to find something, it would make people scratch their heads. There were many Awakening Heaven sect disciples, all of them spread out to search, but it still took them close to 4 hours to search the entire sect. After searching one round, the disciples found nothing. Apart from a few secret rooms that stored heavenly treasures, they didn't find any other secluded places, let alone any strangers. Have you all checked clearly? Are you sure you didn't miss anything? After listening to the last disciple's report, little girl Xing couldn't help but frown. Could it be that the Grand Elder knew that Xiao Chen was going to find trouble with him, so he ran away in advance? Replying to sect leader Xing, the disciples have already searched the sect many times. There really isn't any other abnormal place. An elder bowed with a bitter face and carefully reported, Hero Xiao, what do you think next? Elder Sun finally calmed down and stood to the side with an awkward expression. After all, they couldn't find any traces of the Grand Elder. Xiao Chen definitely wouldn't let this matter rest. He could only carefully ask for the opinion of this fiend. However, before Elder Sun could finish speaking, Xiao Chen waved his hand impatiently and interrupted him. Then he glared at him and said, The one with the surname Sun, are you not taking Sect Master Xing seriously? He is the true sect leader of your sect. Why the hell are you asking me? Elder Sun jumped in fright. Only now did he realize that his actions were a bit inappropriate. After all, little girl Xing was only a low-level disciple that ran errands for him. Now that she had suddenly become his direct superior, it was a bit hard to switch roles. Really? You don't even have the slightest bit of eyesight. Don't tell me you gave your chrysanthemum to Situ Qitian in exchange for this position? Xiao Chen snorted and coldly mocked. Pfft. As soon as Xiao Chen finished speaking, many of the disciples in the plaza couldn't help but laugh. Normally, they had all been bullied by Elder Sunday. Now that they saw him being humiliated in front of Xiao Chen, their moods immediately became much better. Their original fear also gradually dissipated. Although Elder Sun was so angry that his lungs were about to explode, he didn't dare to act rashly. He could only forcefully suppress the anger in his heart. Turning his head, he respectfully bowed to little girl Xing and asked, Sect leader Xing, what do you think we should do next? How about this? I think these disciples didn't search carefully enough. Why don't we just let them search again? Elder Sun naturally knew that the people below him were laughing at him. Although he couldn't punish them in front of everyone, he could choose to use another method to teach these disciples a lesson. Small things I can't beat Xiao Chen, but do you think I can't deal with you guys? The disciples who were already dissatisfied with Elder Sun had their eyes blazing with anger when they heard these words. They wanted nothing more than to slap Elder Sun to death. Wasn't he clearly trying to torment them? What a king piece of trash. Xiao Chen, how about we do as Elder Sun said and let everyone search carefully again? Little girl Xing didn't have any ideas of her own, and turned to Xiao Chen for help. Chapter 1261. Little chick Xing still hadn't gotten used to her identity as the sect leader. She was also clueless about how to deal with the following tasks. Her mind was blank, and she couldn't think of any other way. Oh, forget it. There's no need for that. I'll try other methods. I should be able to find that old bastard's hiding place. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, and directly released his divine sense to cover the entire Qi Tian sect. He carefully checked every place. Xiao Chen could also see that the disciples of Qi Tian sect were somewhat resentful. However, their main target was Elder Sun, so he didn't intend to be too ruthless. After all, little chick Xing still had to be in charge of this sect in the future. It wouldn't do to be unpopular. It was better to let those disciples secretly hate Elder Sun in their hearts. However, when Xiaochen said this, Elder Sun immediately gritted his teeth in anger. Just now, when he asked Xiaochen for instructions, this guy insisted that he ask little Chick Xing. Now that he turned around, little Chick Xing went to ask Xiaochen. This was simply an unnecessary move. Maybe Xiaochen just wanted to take the opportunity to humiliate him. Although he was angry, Elder Sun could only bear with it. Who asked him to be weak and his skills inferior to others? Elder Sun secretly swore that for now, he would temporarily act according to Xiaochen and little Chick Xing's mood. When Situ Qitian achieved great success in the immortal cultivation world and returned with glory, he would settle the score with these two people. So you're hiding there. It's really a good place. No wonder no one can find you. Just as Elder Sun's thoughts were running wild, Xiaochen suddenly laughed coldly and muttered to himself. It turned out that Xiaochen had already found the location of the Grand Elder. Just now, when he extended his divine sense into Situ Qitian's room, he finally found a secret seclusion spot behind the bookcase. Moreover, the hidden door behind the bookcase was equipped with a very complicated electronic password lock. Now it made sense that those disciples couldn't find the secret room. They probably didn't dare to casually enter the sect master's room. Even if they did, they definitely wouldn't dare to mess around due to Situ Qitian's remaining prestige, which was why they returned empty-handed. Xiaochen's spiritual awareness swept again, and confirmed that there was really an old man sitting in the seclusion spot. He was not in a hurry, and stood in the same place and stretched his waist. Xiaochen, have you found it? Where is he? When little Miss Xing heard Xiaochen's words, her face lit up with joy. She anxiously asked, "Do you want me to send a disciple to find him? Or should we go and find him directly?" "There's no need to go through all that trouble." Xiaochen waved his hand, then turned in another direction and suddenly shouted in a loud voice, "Grand Elder, listen up! Situ Qitian, that old fellow, has already been played to death by me. Stop hiding, and quickly get out of your seclusion. Otherwise, this young master will immediately burn the awakening heaven gate to ashes." Boom! Just as Xiaochen's voice fell, a loud sound suddenly came from Situ Qitian's room. Then, a black figure broke through the window and shot towards Xiaochen's direction. When it reached Xiaochen, the black figure turned 2.5 times in the air before landing in front of Xiaochen. The face was old, and the hair was white. It was the old man that Xiaochen's spiritual awareness had detected previously. It was the Grand Elder, who controlled Situ Qitian like a puppet. "The one shouting outside just now was you, kid?" The Grand Elder was dressed in black, and there was no extra expression on his face. His cold eyes swept over Xiaochen and the others, then stopped on Elder Sun for a while. He opened his mouth and asked in a hoarse voice, "Little Sun, what happened here? Situ Qitian was really killed by this kid?" You are." Elder Sun was stunned. He suddenly realized that the old man in front of him had a familiar feeling. After carefully looking at the old man's face, Elder Sun exclaimed in surprise, "Master Gong Sun Yen, is it really you? How is this possible? Back then, you left without saying goodbye. I thought you were already." It turned out that this old man was called Gong Sun Yen. He was the master who taught Elder Sun back then. In the past, when Gong Sun Yen was training in the secular world, he met Elder Sun by chance. At that time, Elder Sun was still a child who was bullied by everyone. When Gong Sun Yen found him, he was being beaten up by a group of older children. The bored Gong Sun Yen stood at the side and observed for a while. He found that although this kid was beaten black and blue, his muscles and bones were soft and good at avoiding fatal injuries. His heart moved and he saved him. After chatting with him for a while, Gong Sun Yen found that his comprehension was good and could be considered a cultivation talent. Gong Sun Yen brought him back to Open Heaven Gate and carefully taught him. He also took one of the Sun characters from the compound surname Gong Sun as Elder Sun's new name. However, not long after, when Elder Sun's cultivation had finally reached a small level, Gong Sun Yen suddenly disappeared. From then on, he never appeared in the inner martial arts world again. It was as if he had disappeared from the world. In order to find his master, Elder Sun spent a year searching everywhere for his whereabouts. However, he did not get any results. Any information about this person was like a stone thrown into the sea. There was no response. Elder Sun thought that Gongsun Yen had already left the inner martial arts world, or that he had met with misfortune. He felt sad for a while because of this. He did not expect that Gongsun Yen would suddenly appear in front of him today. He could not help but feel excited. If you want to reminisce, let's talk about the past later. Gongsun Yen interrupted Elder Sun's surprised and happy words. He stared coldly at Xiao Chun, and a trace of haze flashed in his eyes. He asked Elder Sun, "Tell me first, what happened to this kid? Was he the one who killed Sita Tian? Why are you staying with him?" Previously, Gongsun Yen had been cultivating in the seclusion spot. Suddenly, he had a faint feeling that he was being watched. He was just about to find Sita Tian and ask him what was going on when he heard Xiao Chen shout outside. He was shocked and angry. He immediately got up and rushed out. Before Elder Sun could continue, Xiao Chen pushed him to the side and stood up. He crossed his arms and said carelessly, "You old thing, you hid yourself pretty well. If it wasn't for me, you guys wouldn't have been able to find you. You killed Sita Tian?" Gongsun Yen narrowed his eyes. He could not sense the strength of Xiao Chun. He was a little confused, so he asked again to confirm. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth twitched. He said slowly, "I might as well tell you the truth. That idiot Sita Tian was indeed killed by this young master. If you don't want to die like him, then quickly destroy your own cultivation to show your sincerity. Otherwise, I will beat you up into a pig's head. You won't be able to embarrass yourself in front of your disciple." You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.